Hello everybody, welcome back to the AEL Dota 2 Uni League. Of course, we are here still in the depths of Season 2 for 2021. I am the Wandering Bard, and joining me for tonight's game is a new partner in crime, Blue Panda. Blue Panda, I've been looking forward to working with you, man. How are you feeling tonight?
Look, I'm excited. I love Dota. I love being back in the action, and obviously joining someone new on the desk is always a great experience. I'm keen. I'm looking forward to it. Not to mention the fact we have some stellar teams up for the competition tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. UOW Esports, obviously, if you've been following the AEL Uni League for a few seasons, or like me, if you're lucky enough to be casting it for a few seasons, you'll know these guys are a powerhouse. They've been sticking together with mostly the same roster for several seasons now, and they're hoping to better up their results every time. Up against UNSW Raw, a little bit less of a known quantity for me, though, so I'm interested to see if they are up to the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting matchup, to say the very least. So far, at the moment, UOW have only lost a single map. They are sitting on 5 wins and a single tie. So one map dropped overall, whereas you look at UNSW Raw, they are 2-3-1. So 2 victories, 3 ties, and the 1 outright loss. So there is a bit of a difference, a bit of a gap in their standings on the table. 16 points for UOW, the 9 for UNSW. So if UNSW, they pick themselves up a win here, they can hit double digits. Looks good going into playoffs. And at the moment, look, it is going to be an uphill battle. I guarantee you that much, especially given how much of a strong team, strong presence UOW have had in this competition. So I'm keen to see what they're bringing to the table. What has UNSW done in preparation for this match? Obviously, there is going to be a decent amount of information out there and available, but how much of that information can be used to translate into a victory for UNSW?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about that is that when you're playing the information game, it's a little bit more complicated of recent times in Dota because we're still sort of in the honeymoon period of a big new patch. The meta has changed significantly, if not so much in the macro play. Obviously, still stacks and stuff are emphasized, but the hero cast that people have been picking lately has completely changed up. So, now we're getting to see not just which teams have the overall strength to carry out games in the Uni League, but also the adaptability and the creativity, daring of sorts, to kind of innovate these new lineups or pick up heroes like Keeper of the Light that have really changed their role and maybe get an advantage on other teams by doing so.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention just how much impact the likes of a Night Stalker pick has sort of become the forefront of things at the moment, especially that offlane. I mean, I remember coming into my first Uni League Dota cast, we saw that Night Stalker pick. We were like, cool, yeah, the new patch, we'll see how he goes. It sort of seemed that, the outlier for the most part. And then, the last few weeks, it's just Night Stalker, Night Stalker, Night Stalker, pairing it with some of these incredibly strong, support heroes. I've seen it with, I've completely forgot the name off the top of my head, but that's what happens when you fill your head full of Rainbow Six information and see...
it's too much esports.
Yeah, honestly, that is my biggest problem. I just follow far too much esports, but just the amount of utility you can stack behind this incredibly beefy, incredibly hard-hitting hero is a little bit scary, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think it's part of this bigger overall trend that we've seen on the patch. Might be the biggest, most defining one, which is this trend of beefy melee heroes really dominating the early game. It sort of seems like it's a consequence of teams going away from the laning phase being about the ability to gank and counter gank, so you think burst damage, stuns, these int range supports, and instead without that it's more about being able to out endure your enemies, have control over the lane, the woods near the lane to control the creep camps, and that involves these high armor, high effective HP melee heroes with powerful abilities. And so then from that, you transition into that mid-game where heroes like Night Stalker, whether as an off-lane like Utility Core or, a support like Fada has been playing it, really provides a very different presence to what you'd expect out of your enemy 4 or 5 position.
Yeah, and speaking of survivability and endurance, we see 3 pretty targeted bans. That Ancient Apparition, one of those heroes that's pretty notorious for it, enabling the shutdown of those big beefy heroes, denying that healing. And then on the other side of things, UNSW take out not only the Omni, but the Oracle as well. 2 heroes that are huge in terms of providing that survivability for what tends to be a somewhat squishy carry at the best of times.
Yeah, exactly. It's also sort of a nice reaction, as Omni Knight is one of being the dominant heroes of the patch so far. Huge buffs to him, compounding a history of buffs across recent patches. But also, when you see your enemy first ban Ancient Apparition, that does, kind of push the hand towards the ban healing button because, you know, you don't want to read too much into an AA ban. The hero has thankfully become something of a general presence in Dota over the last couple of years, but still, you read what's given to you. And they actually go for some healing of their own. They pick up the Winter Wyvern, immediate counter pick of Bloodseeker, and a second immediate pick of Tinker. So I was talking about creativity and daring, the ability to pick up heroes that have changed their roles. I don't think a single hero changed its role more than Tinker. Maybe the Keeper of the Light, but still. For this hero, which has been defined since, like, Warcraft 3 Dota 1 15 years ago by Boots of Travel, plus Rearm, plus March of the Machines, to have that identity changed in a big way is one of the single, like, most impactful remakes I think we've ever seen in Dota.
Easily. And, I mean, there's a lot of talk, and there's a lot of figuring out, there's a lot of calculations being done to sort of figure out where he does traditionally now, well, not traditionally, but, you know, in this new environment fit. And a lot of people are saying he's no longer a mid laner. Obviously, without March of the Machines, you can't just farm up those cans. So you're looking more towards that safe lane area, which does obviously provide, you know, it gives us more questions about where this Bloodseeker will be going. Avenge coming in, a lot of lockdown already starting to show itself if the UNSW.
Yeah, I mean, the on the offensive lockdown side, Winter Wyvern has had her power slightly tamped down. You can thank Nine, prominent mid laner, for sort of demonstrating how crazy, you know, this support had become in the previous patch. But, you know, Vengeful Spirits, the next one to step up to the plate as more of a core after a big change to the ultimate, that Nether Swap spell, another really iconic, you know, spell from the whole history of Dota, finally getting a little bit of a shot in the arm. Now that damage reduction on it is huge, especially against these two heroes, right? Because Tinker and Bloodseeker, I guess Tinker isn't everyone's idea of a single target hero, but even more so after March of the Machines, it really is about getting on top of a target and throwing out your huge nuke combo on them. So having, you know, the ability to alter the positioning with the swap while reducing the incoming damage could be huge there, and especially when you consider your ability to kind of clean up for an awkward Wyvern freeze with that same spell.
And there we go, we're starting to see some more of those bans coming through. Night Stalker again, take it away. This is one of my favorite parts about Dota. Obviously, the draft phase in itself is basically a chess match. You're trying to position your pieces in a way to give you the most favorable outcome while your opponents are doing the same. So you see, you know, we want to play this, so we're going to take that immediately off the board. We see the Night Stalker. We see the Slark being banned out from UNSW, so they're still obviously trying to figure out just how this Bloodseeker and Tinker will fit into the lineup, anticipating maybe the little Slark will come through, something like that, trying to ban away one of those more elusive heroes. And yeah, another one, Phantom Lancer being taken away, trying to deal with some of this, you know, high intensity late game carry potential.
Yeah, I mean, Phantom Lancer has kind of stood on his own. It's a funny thing, right? I feel like the patches where Phantom Lancer is the late game god don't always seem obvious. Like, it's not always like, oh, Phantom Lancer got a huge buff, it's time to pick PL as the ultimate late game inevitability. It's just every now and then someone figures out, like, oh, yeah, this is another PL patch, nothing beats PL. And, I mean, I wouldn't have thought Bloodseeker and Tinker would be too bad against PL. Obviously, you don't have, like, March or anything anymore, but it feels like countering PL through AoE is a bit of a thing of the past, and it's more about countering him on a macro level. These are some of the better heroes for hunting out of PL, I would have said, and even a Slark, right? Like, obviously the new Depth Shroud helps, but interesting bans to say the least. I think it may just be targeted at what the carry of UOW Esports favors.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And, well, I'm still you got to figure it out as well as the cast. We see the lifestealer taken away, so again, I think maybe it's trying to read into just how that Venge can fit into this roster. The next ban phase, it's going to be a conquer. So there's obviously a lot of mental work that UNSW have put into this matchup to try and figure out what they need to shut down to get the win and potentially deal UOW their first loss. And just looking at everything they've done, this is very targeted. They're looking to enable their playstyle as much as possible. You see the Omni Knight, something with, you know, that enables that survivability. You want Venge to be able to target out that one key hero, set them up for that death, and with the Guardian Angel off the board, helps with that. Oracle being taken out as well. The more elusive heroes being banned out. There is a lot that UNSW are doing at the moment to preemptively enable their comp.
Yeah, and they've also shown very little so far, right? Like, both the Wyvern and the Vengeful are quite flexible, both in where they lane, and then also after the laning phase, their role in teamfights in their overall macro strategy is quite flexible. What I'm interested in seeing them pick up, obviously they still have a lot to fill, but I'm interested in their initiation, because right now, UOW, if they have to, they can make fights happen around the map, and they've just gained a little bit more in terms of doing that with the Bane, right? Like, it's easy for them to use the vision advantage provided by the Bloodseeker, and the sort of map presence provided by the Tinker to set up at least small engagements through to the late game. Whereas UNSW, these are two more defensive heroes now. Like you say, the Vengeful Swap can set up kills, but until you have the increased range, it's not so grand for that. And now with the added incentive to use it defensively, it feels like you do want a different source of initiation, even for those mid-game ganks. Or, I guess, you could go back to another late-game hero having to remove the PL and the Slark and challenge UOW to come to you. But against a team of UOW's caliber, I would be nervous about doing that. Well, there's their initiation before I even finish
there
speaking.
we go. A Puck and a Bane picked up here. A lot of, again, we're seeing more of that lockdown. You're going to have that Dream Coil as well. UNSW's team fight, it's gearing up to be quite oppressive going into that mid to late game area. I mean, things could get very interesting playing around the Winter's Curse, the Dream Coil combo. I'm interested to see what UOW's response is here. Do they pick into some more of that survivability, or do they go to that, the hard steamroll style of play? Obviously, with the Nyx off the board, it makes it a little bit harder to go for that lockdown, but with a Bane combo, you can look for something maybe like a Lion, depending on, how you want to go into that. Obviously, he's seen a bit of the nerf bat recently. Nothing significant enough to, shift him out of the meta, but obviously enough to dissuade him from certain comps. At the moment, there is also that a decent chunk of magic damage to take into account here for both sides already.
Yeah, I think that's worth focusing on, as there's pretty heavy magic damage available, but not that many BKB buyers on either side right now. It's pretty much just, Bloodseeker who loves to gun for that sort of thing. Maybe Puck or Venge have the option. What's interesting to me about, as you said, UNSW going in pretty hard for the team fight. They've gone in for the team fight disruption especially, and in ways that are very difficult to imagine Bane, working around with the Fiend script. This is a huge Bane patch, but at the same time, I don't think you can realistically expect to get a Fiend script off when 4 members of the enemy team have fast, long-range, targeted stuns to break it up. Even if you have a BKB available, there are multiple options here to disrupt the Fiend script through magic immunity. So I feel like UOW, and the Sand King pick does kind of take them down this road, should maybe look to lean into more of a macro global strategy. What I mean is just avoid getting together. Spread yourselves out. Make sure you have heroes who can take advantage of farm. Maybe not have to go super late game, but farm their way into a good gold lead in the mid game before you start taking fights. Because I feel like if you come out of the laning phase against all of these ultimates and you try to gather up, heroes like Bloodseeker are just going to vanish under the nukes of UNSW.
Yeah, this team fight combo out of UNSW is looking even scarier. The more heroes they add to that pool, it's just, Winter's Curse, Dream Coil, and then an Earthshaker on top of that. That is terrifying. And a Juggernaut, you understand why UOW are going to take that out. On top of everything that UNSW already has. A Juggernaut, something like that, it's just the last thing you sort of want to add to the combo. But yeah, UOW, they are playing more of a pick style of Dota. They want to take those fights. They've got the Burrow Strike, Fiend script set up, so they are going to be looking around the map trying to shut down one of those heavy carries. Tiny would have been a pretty decent addition to that roster, something a little bit beefier that can pair with the Sand King in the front line, deal that initial chip damage so that Bloodseeker can just come in and steamroll through the rest of it. I'm interested to see where they take this final pick out of UOW, because you want something that can also play around this heavy roam style, something that can follow up with the Sand King and Bane and just enable that, or something that can sort of focus on itself, go to a lane where there is no priority from their opponents, and farm up coming into that late game as an absolute steam train.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised they banned out Jug and Lifesteal, because it feels like a magic immunity carry would be the absolute perfect thing for them to finish their draft with here. That being said, I do think we're going to see probably a mid laner picked up for UOW, if I had to guess. I reckon this is going to be, because they continue to ban out carries, right? I think they're going to go back and get a mid laner, and we'll say safe lane Bloodseeker, off lane Sand King here, because picking up a mid laner, I think, gives them the best chance at acquiring what they need, which is their... You gotta think, after the laning phase, oftentimes a team's ability to hold space on the map, especially against a team like this that can just get aggressive as soon as they have their level 6s, is who is your strongest hero, and how well does that one hero line up against your enemy? How much can they do? Because a lot of heroes are just not going to be able to ever fight this team with their, laning phase health and items, and they go for Void Spirit. This is exactly what I thought they would do. You pick a hero like this that can expose these low hit points immobile supports at the backline of UNSW, break up their formation, still has the chance to scale, still plays well with all your pick-off heroes, but Gubala, it's going to be his job to stymie any early aggression out of UNSW by just being too strong and forcing them to play at least somewhat respectful of UOW's map space. That's going to give the Bloodseeker, Tinker, Sand King time to work their way into the game.
I mean, this is interesting. You got almost two dichotomous styles of Dota here. You've got one, they don't want a team fight. They want to look for picks and steamroll off the back of it out of the side of UOW. And then you've got UNSW who says, you know, at every single point in this matchup, we are looking to team fight. We are looking to stack our damage and abilities. So it's going to be interesting to see how UOW can avoid UNSW looking to play that 5-man wombo style of Dota. And honestly, the heroes they've picked for it, they're pretty good at that. They're pretty good at isolating 1v1s, 2v1 fights, and looking to play off of that. So UNSW, they've set themselves a tall task. It's about how they, you know, execute that as to whether or not they can pick up their win tonight.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's pretty interesting to see, like you said, the clash of styles, because I feel like both of them are in their own way quite difficult to play. Like, you do need a very high level of coordination, and not just in the teamfight itself, but in terms of, you know, coordinating your power spikes to play a lineup of the kind that we're seeing out of UNSW here. But at the same time, UOW, it can be very difficult to successfully play, like, this split map optimized efficiency game, because I really do feel like that's what they have to do, right? They have to kind of hope for good lanes, and then make sure that all of their heroes are using as much empty space on the map as they can, and kind of juking around what I assume is going to be a really nasty death ball of like Puck, Earthshaker, Vengeful, like 10 minutes time. But as we see the players pause to start this game out, Blue Panda, I'm going to take a moment to thank the real MVPs of this game, the sponsors of the AEL Uni League. So, of course, if you've been with us before, you know who these are, but it's very important to make sure that we support them who support us, starting with Chatime, our premier sponsor. They're presenting this whole season of the AEL Uni League. You know, obviously also supporting all players everywhere with delicious bubble tea and refreshing drinks. As we come back into the warmer weather, I know that I'll be, you know, just changing up my Chatime order. I love the fruity stuff, and I'm sure all of the players will enjoy the refreshment as well. We, of course, also have our food sponsor, Indomie. You know, the perfect complement, as I always say, bubble tea and rum and noodles. It's a real gamer diet, but no, they're great to have in the pantry as a backup for, you know, whenever I'm about to cast a game and I don't have time for a full meal, but I still need to keep going with something healthy and filling. I go back for a nice bowl of Indomie, throw in an egg and a few vegetables, and you know, they always look for ways to support us with their prize packs and other giveaways, in addition to, you know, just a great product. And of course, more relevant to gaming, we've got our tech sponsors. AOC, they're our monitor sponsor, providing incredible technical specs at a fine price, you know, gamer-focused hardware. It really does make the difference, especially at the higher levels of play like this. And hopefully, you know, any of our fans and taking advantage of it, as well as the players themselves. Lastly, Rig, our headset sponsors, coming on board to make sure everyone has excellent sound quality, because, my God, Blue Panda, imagine if people could not hear our voices in crystal clear surround sound clarity. That'd be a disaster.
I mean, what's even the point of showing up to a broadcast?
Why live?
If you can't, yeah, exactly. If you can't hear the casters talking smack about the players, why even show up at the end of the day? And look, I'll be perfectly honest, I'm a big fan of the AOC stuff. I'm using an AOC Monitor at the moment, and I'm looking to upgrade, so I'm definitely browsing their stocks at the moment. Hey, might even pull the, you know, the friendo card and let them know that I work with AEL. Might be able to get the discount going there. But at the moment, yeah, players all stocked up, ready to go, full of Indomie.
Yeah,
just absolutely juiced up and ready to go already.
Yeah,
starting to see some of that mid-priority coming through.
Maybe we should get some sort of custom AEL mod for the finals where it replaces Tangos and Sals with noodle bricks and bubble tea. I think that'd be hype.
That's it. Big bottle of Chatime. Yeah, I'd rate that coming in on the courier.
Get a Rig-sponsored Tinker skin. He's just decaled up, rocking the headset. I mean, he's wearing some sort of headgear. I don't know if Rigs sell the motor more or whatever that's called, and I don't even know if that even does anything anymore, right? Because you no longer have much of the machines, but we know that MBTW, he is capable of doing things, right? He will not be held back by the changes to Tinker. I'm excited to see how he actually ends up playing this hero. It does look like he might be in the 4 position with it, but that's a pretty potent kill lane all the same.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to be concerning UNSW right now, and we are going to start to see that rune dance already. And topside Ward coming out of the diet will spot Goobala there, looking to pick up that rune for himself. No, Billy's the man to pick it up. In fact, it looks like it's just going to be a straight trade, 2 runes apiece, and Well, they're even going to keep that topside jungle Radiant one there available. Maybe in preparation for that early bottom.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess you feel like the enemy, given their team lineup, they actually aren't that likely to invade and check. So yeah, why not free value? What would be really cool to see is whether or not they get daring enough to run a second bottle on the same team. God forbid, like I know Sand King sometimes goes back for a bottle, but can you imagine support Tinker with a bottle, right? Like MBTW, he could use that really to field their nukes. In the
sounds like a horrendous lane. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. That is not good for your mental health.
Not selling you.
No. It's great for Tinker, but for whoever's versing it, they're gonna have a bad time. And speaking of having a bad time, Billy is low, very low already into this gyrocopter and Winter Wyvern combo. That could be dangerous.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a rough matchup. Like the Caustic Finale here doesn't do that much against the double range here, but at the same time, you definitely don't want to skill Burrow Strike and feel like you're baiting yourself into diving into the Rocket Barrage. So I'm not really sure what the correct play is here at top lane, but it just seems like an awkward level 1 and 2 for Billy the Brawler. Maybe once we see the Sandstorm levels come up for him, things will change. Meanwhile, in the Radiant safe lane, we've got Bloodseeker and Bane up against Earthshaker Vengeful. That is a classic Dota lane if I've ever seen one. What do you think of it?
I mean, it's bringing back thoughts of the original, Warcraft 3 mod of just running into something as brutal as this combo. I mean, I'm a big Earthshaker fan myself. I love a bit of the old ES coming into play, but with the new Venge, who is hitting pretty hard with the minus armor on top of it, I mean, this could spiral out of control quickly. I mean, we are starting to see a lot of these skirmishes very early on across the map.
Yeah, like I said, sort of the current laning meta is a lot about controlling the space around the lanes, not in like big climactic all-in engagements, but just in terms of, trading auto attacks back and forth with your opponent. So in that case, Earthshaker, who's always been a bit of a weak laner, can hold his own as we see supports on both sides of the map fighting aggressively over the sentry ward placement in those neutral camps, the pulls. That's what the laning phase is all about. If you're not going to kill your opponents, you want to do them the economic damage instead. And right now, both teams are kind of trading even in that regard.
Hit him where it hurts, and the homing missile coming in. This could be rough for MBTW.
Yep. Oh, actually, yeah, he looked away at the wrong time. Billy the Brawler tries to dive in and save with a Burrow Strike. He's got that up to level 2 now already, but it is not enough to save the Tinker. It's just an awkward hero in these first couple of levels. In fact, he's only level 1 still, but giving maybe a little bit too much XP to Billy there. And as a result, those homing missiles level 1, not enough to discourage the smaller but more efficient rockets of stop-hit creeps on the Gyrocopter.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last thing you want right now for the Radiant side. You want to wait until both, Tinker and Sand King around that level 4 mark. That's when things can really start to suffer here. And Xeon Flux might even be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of brawling in this top lane in general, which, I mean, I'm not surprised, right? Tinker, Sand King, dual lane, you'd expect that, but I was hoping MBTW would be able to get online, I'll say, a bit faster. He's still level 1, not even just halfway to level 2. So the nuking and killing power in this lane is really lacking, and when you're up against a lane that's as powerful as this Wyvern Gyro lane, like, okay, maybe you'd be scared to fight them off if you were at even, but now that they've sort of got a lead in terms of kill potential, they are the ones relentlessly pressuring both Billy and Mark back.
I mean, it's a concerning thing. So for Billy and MBTW, level 4 for both Tinker and Sand King, that's where things can really start to get aggressive. Yes, Gyro can hit reasonably hard, but as soon as we start to see the Sandstorm, plus the Burrow Strike, plus those homing missiles coming in, you can really lose a lot of control over this lane. But the fact that already we have seen MBTW go down, it's given the Gyro and Winter Wyvern combo enough in terms of experience and gold that they can contest this lane quite freely.
Yeah, this is a great start for your UNSW, right? Like, I mean, first hurdle in a lot of these games in the Uni League for teams is just getting out of the laning phase somewhat intact, not losing all 3 lanes. But they're getting a pretty solid time of it up here. The Gyro's not really leading the last hits. The Void Spirit and Bloodseeker are slightly ahead, and the Sand King is keeping up. But it's even, right? It's not a disaster in the lane phase, and there is a gold lead overall right now thanks to the kill. But this might turn it around the other way. Stop hit creeps. Gets caught out by the Burrow. We're finally seeing the nukes unleashed as the Radiant get a bit confident, but you can see there it's not enough. They don't have the levels in these nukes. Only level 1 on laser and rockets. I mean, there's not that much that Tinker can do right now. The fighting in the lane has been too intense attacks. We actually see action at the bottom lane as well. Kid picking up a kill on the Bloodseeker. You sort of expect it to happen eventually with this hero in the laning phase. Very powerful, but, pretty big get only on the, the Vengeful Spirits core this game, of course. So that is a big win for them, taking out the enemy offlaner.
I was watching that entire fight too. Kavoth is going to be kicking himself. The only reason Hero got put in the position that he did was because of the fissure. Cutting diagonally across the lane forced Hero to go through that little jungle part where the side shop used to be. Getting stuck there, meant that we saw the Blood Rite come down.
Oh, Dream Coil in mid lane, actually. There was just, she was just trading with Void Spirit in mid, but realized, actually, you spent a few too many of your spells, and then, okay, yeah, that was a great bait. Made me miss the actual kill going on top lane. Nearly multiple kills at top lane, it looks like, as both Xeon Flux and Billy barely survive. In the end, the mid laners just kind of throw their spells at each other, and then actually think twice about this pointless aggression. Meanwhile, the side lanes, that's where people are here fighting to the death. Tinker actually diving the top tower, and Xeon Flux does a great job of avoiding any potential lethal nuke. The cooldown a bit long on heat-seeking missiles, the laser maybe not high enough damage or unable to get vision, and now the Radiant just hoping to slip away back to their own territory without incident. It looks like they will.
Oh no, here it could be trouble.
The Fisher, that's not a great line for you. Kvoth?
That's twice now Kvoth has cost Hero his life.
They tip him, oh no. The psychological damage.
Esports is a two-lane street. It's about skills in the server and the mental warfare. As a Rainbow Six commentator, I know that more than anything. But this top lane has been so heavily contested. Billy's getting jumped on it again.
They just won't stop. I mean, when you've got a homing missile, why would you? Billy, oh, he lets him know. He's not afraid to pull the trigger. He pump fakes the epicenter, and then he realizes he could probably be using that time more productively to run for his life if he does intend to survive at all. Gubala, he's coming in invisibly. This could be a huge turnaround. He misses the remnant, but there's a lot of damage, and for whatever reason, stop hit creeps. He sixth sensed that maybe something was going wrong with his gank, but maybe that hesitation ended up costing him the chance to at least finish off the SK. He just kind of stood there paralyzed, not hit by the remnant. He successfully juked that, but he wasn't able to do anything with that moment of space, and in the end, both he and the Wyvern go down. Huge rotation from Gubala. That's exactly what I needed to see out of this Void Spirit to prop up kind of a soft early game for UOW. Now they're getting the stacks going as well.
In the business, we call that one a debate.
I'm taking notes. Okay.
Like, Billy was dead. Billy was dead by all rights. And then Gubala just happened to be there in Viz.
Divine Llama, he's debating right now, maybe. Or is he? He goes down to the orb. That one wasn't so professional. Gubala left alone now against 3. He has the level advantage on a couple of them. And he looks like he's still fishing for the kill on Shizuya, trying to play with his resources. And he has the most important resource of all for Void Spirit, Astral Step. He uses one of those charges to just suddenly vanish from vision of the Dire before they can finish him off. So, I mean, that just shows you a player who really knows his limits. But that time, his team could not get a lot out of him.
I mean, there have been some phenomenal Void Spirit players here in the AEL University League. Honestly, I've seen more highlight plays out of Void Spirits than I think any other hero in the competition, but
it's that kind of hero.
Yeah, it really is. It's the flashy one. It's the one that makes all the big plays. It's not the, it's not the support that's doing all the, the pulling and setting up those camps so that your carry can come and farm them. It's just the one that everyone sees, not the unsung heroes in the back line. We're starting to see some of those big abilities come online. We do have the Rupture ready to go. We've already seen our first, epicenter coming through. A little bit off the rearm. Not that it's the biggest of ultimates out of the
huge
side,
impact rearm.
Yeah,
make sure to catch that first cast.
But it's also, I mean, it's what?
Speaking of huge impact, sorry, Gubala will not let you have time to analyze the game. He wants to go. He wants action. He dives stop hit creeps under the tier 2 tower just because he finds him there as their team sort of move through the neutrals, not satisfied to just hold that space because, of course, we do see Puck capitalizing in the mid lane. And in the bottom lane, they're trying to turn the gank around onto the carry of UOW, but I mean, it's a Bloodseeker with a Rupture. And I guess this is why this is a bit of an old-fashioned lane with VS and ES here. They just don't really have a lot of kill threat, even at 2, full-strength heroes against 1.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain jobs in life that are just unbelievably hard. Number one, the guy that does Wolverine's eyebrows. The other being a Dota caster in the Australian University League, because either you're a color who doesn't get time to talk, or you're a play-by-play who has too much to talk about.
Yeah, too much to talk about, including this kill, thank you, on Gubala in the mid lane. Looks like he may have finally bitten off more than he can chew that time. Shizuya only threw out that first ineffectual Dream Coil to lull him into a false sense of security. It's clear because that second one, he had no escape. Kvoth making his first high impact rotation on Earthshaker, the original high impact rotation man, cruising in, dropping the Fisher. In that case, more about the damage and the stun than blocking lines of retreat, but it was enough, and now we're getting ever so close to that ES level 6, as well as, of course, the Winter's Curse a little bit behind it. we're reaching that phase where the terrifying team fight of this UNSW lineup comes online, and they're going to move in to these recently created stacks of the Radiant and just vaporize them. All three of these heroes clear stacks so fast, they're not even just waiting for Stop Hit Creeps to do it himself, and by the time, it doesn't take that long even, sorry, for Divine Llama to realize what might be happening, but it is already too late. A huge economic blow. They're going to take some recompense as Gabala just walks in and drops all of his buttons on the Earthshaker support, killing off Kvoth, delaying that level 6 and, you know, any eventual Blink Dagger. But I still think the last couple of minutes have showed that UNSW are here to play.
And for the first time in a minute and a half, wondering Bard will get to take his first breath. These guys have not slowed down whatsoever. Being a color caster in this matchup sucks. I will be perfectly honest. You're like, cool, I have this to talk about. Never mind, they're fighting again, and it looks like maybe, just maybe, we could see that happen again as they are gearing up to take these towers. Kavoth, that's a bold TP, my friend.
Oh my god, there's so much action happening. Billy chasing Kavoth up behind the tier 1, even as his Void Spirit chases the Gyrocopter carry back to the tier 2. Of course, that is creating a lot of space and kind of isolating this ES pick. They might just be giving up. I mean, I'm sure Kavoth, actually, he's already cast the Echo Slam, maybe in self-defense there, so he just ends up going down for no trade. His team not backing him up without that big gun online to help turn the fight around. Instead, they do what I sort of projected the Radiant should be doing. They're just trying to make use of the map, use whatever space is left of them, not tending to engage the enemy on their terms, which is good play, right? Like, this is what you like to see, a team who are confident that even when the enemy are extracting some things from them, killing off a hero or two, they're able to still find room to play their own game on the map.
Yeah, just the impact of what happened at the top lane, though, is so huge. First Echo Slam committed for absolutely nothing. They were going to lose that tower.
Never mind, they have plenty more cooldowns where that came from. It doesn't hurt quite as much when you can follow up with a Dream Coil and a call down. And, you know, maybe not a Winter's Curse. There is a silence going off, but only the Arctic Burn was required. That's the carry of UOW going down Kid on the Bloodseeker. And I feel like this is a game where Bloodseeker, like, naturally as a hero, not the carriest carry, not the most efficient item user, definitely needs several items this game to really come online, because he needs to, yeah, basically finish this Cine and then build a BKB, I feel.
That's it. Exactly it. And I mean, despite losing out in the Bloodseeker, they're still putting in work on this top lane towers. They've taken on the first, the tier 2 is chipped away, about 2/3 left on it, but for the first time we are going to start to see Diet, you know, prioritize some of those objectives. They're going to look to take this tier 1 in the bot lane, but you can see the communication. It's all hard focus. Radiant say, okay, they're going to take that. We're going to start pushing things up in the top lane, get this nice and wide open so we can start to play the map a bit more.
Yeah, we're still seeing the items start to come out for each team, like first item type stuff. Puck has that Witchblade, not ready for the Blink Dagger yet. You can see Hero already queuing up that Aghanim Scepter. It hasn't been the strongest VS start, but eventually we will see the power of that item come out. But actually, no, they're teleporting and they want to pick this fight now. As you'd imagine, for the team fight lineup, they still have plenty of spells available, but Hero maybe goes in a little prematurely, and he's the one who eats the team fight spells of the opponent. So with their VS down, was that worth it? Do they fight now, trading VS for Epicenter? It looks like no. There's some really well-placed Void Remnants by Gubala that help cut off any sneaky Earthshaker positioning. And as he moves back towards the middle of the lane, he runs into Billy the Brawler with some sneaky positioning of his own mega kill streak for the Sand King of UOW. And it's the whole team effort as they all cruise in to pick up a couple of extra bonus kills on the side. In fact, it's Billy hogging them all. Double kill, finishes off the Wyvern of Xeon Flux. That was an absolute massacre, Panda. Where did that come from?
What a way to reveal the Blink Dagger on Billy. Coming in, finds massive impact, is going to enable them to do some big damage. In fact, probably take this mid lane tower as well. No real resistance. You've still got 2 of 5 respawning at the moment, so you can see stop hitting the creeps. He's going to start farming up as much as he possibly can. He's got a Crystallis early, which is an interesting... I mean, look, there's any number of different ways you can play Gyro at the moment, but we're looking more of a right-click centric, I think. Play around that flat cannon, which has received some love as of late. Looking to go for that late-game hard carry.
Yeah, it looks like we've got the Aghanims queued up, so maybe he just wanted some sort of damage item before he goes to that farming commitment, but instead, his team, you know, that's a couple of items away that you're planning for, and instead, the enemy are fighting right now. They pick off Hero again. It's a humongous Winter's Curse. I didn't get hype enough there for poor Xeon Flux, but I can get hype for Kavoth. The follow-up Echo Slam, easy as pie, wanders into that frozen field, drops the hammer down. Billy the Brawler, actually a pretty sick Burrow Strike, could have fooled me for a Ravage there, as he hits multiple heroes, and now, I mean, despite all of those big spells being unleashed, it's Gubala Gubala, who walks away alive with a mega kill streak. Stop hit creeps does survive. He is the one position, so I guess he's who you'd pick, but he's limping back to base. He's just not in fighting shape, and I feel like this is why you pick a Gyrocopter carry, is because you imagine the hero will be most proficient in these fights, but against Void Spirit and against Bloodseeker, he's actually outgunned.
I mean, you have to feel for UNSW. That was such a nice counter engage. Hero was going to go down. They turned it around with the Winter's Curse, the Dream Coil, the Echo Slam on top of it all. And then the Burrow Strike. I mean, just having that Hood of Defiance on Billy meant that he could tank up all that magic damage. Turn around with the Burrow Strike.
Flux, this is not the time to be dewarding, buddy. Your team need to be behind you. Actually, pretty cool use of the Arctic Burn Flight. Managed to hover not even on the high ground, but around it. But unfortunately, that flight expires, and then it's much easier for Gubala to lock down his position. In fact, Hero, I mean, playing the hero there, got a bit of save your mate syndrome. It's fatal, I tell you. That's a terminal diagnosis. He is the second free kill given over, as there's suddenly a 4,000 gold lead and 18 kills to 7, favoring UOW. Looking grim right now.
I mean, it's this point, I think I'd have to say for you to remember that there is actually a Tinker in this match. Not that you really would have noticed, because it's really just Gubala going in absolutely massive, cleaning up all these team fights. There just happens to be a Tinker in the back line. Sometimes there's a Bloodseeker, and if you're really lucky, Billy will get in on the front line and set up for Gubala to just clean things up. But at the moment, I mean, 4K gold lead, 9 kill lead. It's only 16 minutes in, but UOW have their hands on the steering wheel. They're controlling the speed. They've got their hand on the brake as well. If UNSW even want to get into the front seat of this car, they're probably
Oh, Puck, no! You can't be afford to be losing this man. He's already had to give up on the Blink Dagger as he recognizes his team being put totally on the back foot, but this Aghanim Scepter would be huge. His team need that kind of control. Gubala, though, will not let him escape. You reckon Puck's mobile? Check this out. He dives all the way in, finishes him with that DD Astral Step. Now he's going to have his pick of the lesser birds on the side of UNSW. He tears the wings off of that Wyvern. He chews up the Earthshaker. He is massive right now, even getting that defense matrix, the new Tinker E. Just to, I mean, it's more of a morale boost at this point than something he really needs. But this is an absolute textbook Void Spirit game. I'm often very harsh on this hero, because I feel like this is maybe like one of the most snowball dependent mids that is left in the modern game, and so many times I see this hero picked up and just kind of have a medium game where a different hero would have been able to do more. Gubala, this is not the case. He's showing you why teams keep going back to it time and again, because this has just taken over the map like nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, he's very much got that sort of aura of, balls to the wall carry, or just run it down the mid lane style of
Just pub mid stuff. Establish dominance.
That is it. He's about to get his second, his level 15 talent. He's just completely controlling this. As soon as the wave shows up out of the dire, he's there cleaning it up. He's 6k gold lead. And I'm no doubt in my mind, he's a good portion of that. Top 3 net worths across the board are Radiant, and it's by at least 600 gold each of them.
Yeah, it's a pretty nasty gap, and I mean, we're seeing the dire posture to teamfight, because that's sort of, you're in a tough spot when you have a draft like this. This is the ideal situation that they hoped Gubala would be able to provide on the side of UOW, because now your teamfight lineup, you're falling behind, and you're sort of like, well, what are we strong at? What do we want to do? And the answer is teamfight. You're like, have you seen that Void Spirit? Actually, I'm not that keen. And not just the Void Spirit, Billy as well, having a humongous game on the Sand King, right? Like, that Blink Dagger reveal broke the back, I feel like, of this dire squad. Came out well before they thought they were ready to have Blink Daggers on any of their heroes. Just his laning phase went so well. And now, they're kind of just grouped up, not to fight, but more to shield, stop, hit creeps, as he desperately works towards, he is now going back to finish that BKB first. I do at least respect this itemization, right? Like, at least UNSW recognize the kind of situation they're in with these itemization changes. Puck did end up going back for that Blink Dagger, though, in the end. Interesting.
Yeah, the BKB is cool and all, but there's a Bane. The Fiend's Grip is going to completely nullify that BKB.
Well, you got Avenge.
Barring some, input from the rest of your team. But this, look at Hero. He's still not quite sure where to go. He's desperately trying to finish the Agnums. Kavoth is still at least 200 gold away from his Blink Dagger at 19 minutes
2,000 gold.
He's just cracked the 2k mark. He's doing what he can.
Yeah.
This Crystallis build is questionable from stop hit, because it's delayed some of those big key items. He's getting close, but, I mean, how much more they've been able to achieve if he'd already had that BKB online.
A very narrow escape. This Wyvern just touching the stove again, going back to that same spot where you were killed by Gubala before, and then, just having the game sense to TP out in the nick of time. Good play there. Gubala, though, will never stop hunting. Suddenly armed with 2 core items, trying to finish up that Sanjin Kaya, and I'm sure in his mind that's the end of the build because they're going to finish this game in the next 10 minutes. They look a real threat to do that, and as you said, in whatever you thought this Crystallis build was going to eventuate to, when the game's on this kind of pace, it does seem like not the best thing you could have gone for. Oh no, here's an epicenter. Billy even has a pipe ready, so all the magic damage his puck might provide would be null, but that's a moot point anyway as Bane follows up on that great burrow initiation. Look at the coordination out of UOW. This is why they're such a powerhouse. You don't see this out of all of the Uni League teams. This is real cut above type stuff.
Yeah, this is what separates the good from the great. Kavoth,
thankful to have his Blink Dagger there. Big reveal.
I mean, it's a matter of 200 gold. He's only just 200 past it. He's even queuing up a magic wand right now. Yeah. I mean, if it was, what, 30 seconds ago, Kavoth would have been dead.
He would have been dead, yeah. But I mean, that's why, like, UNSW, they are reacting to the game state, right? This is not a team that's, like, encountered adversity and immediately rolled over and died because their strat didn't work first time. They are trying to adapt to the game state, but I feel like maybe this draft lent a little too hard into the first sort of course of action, and now their comeback potential isn't as strong as it even could be with these heroes. Maybe if some of the lanes had gone better or their itemization had been different. And Xeon Flux, he's going to be the next to pay. And BTW, I'm going to assume he got picked off dewarding again because he was pretty close to his own base and there didn't even seem to be that big a commitment to get him. But the Blink Dagger on the Tinker catches the Wyvern out, it seems. Oh, now though, this is a bigger commitment. Gubala, he's found poor hero again. I mean, a common trait of heroes is that they die, right? But, you'd rather get something for your heroic sacrifice and stop hit creeps. He's going to be a sacrifice to the side of UOW. High five, maybe somewhat disingenuously offered by Kid on the Bloodseeker. And I mean, yeah.
It's their point. For like the majority of this game, UOW it's the Gubala show, like the Gubala and Billy, if you're lucky. Well, but now we're getting to the point like you're getting those key items. Oh, Kids, you know, he's a Bloodseeker. He's online. He's got the Rupture. You've also got MBTW. He's a Tinker who's now got a Blink Dagger as well. It's that gold that has trickled down to some of these, you know, lesser spotted heroes of this matchup, and then all of a sudden, actually, now they're a threat as well, and it's no longer a case of shutting down Gubala because there are other priority targets coming into the fold.
Yeah, and BTW's quote-unquote support Tinker is literally holding half of the map, like holding the whole dire triangle by himself. His team are visibly top. He's just there patrolling the perimeter with rockets. And I think the fact that they were like less obvious before, I know you weren't knocking them as players, but I feel like that is just the simplest way to show the gap in these teams so far. The mobility and the speed with which they can respond, right? Gubala has been so fast that his own team can't keep up without Blink Daggers. And now Divine Llama actually finally picks up an engagement that may not be the best for UOW. Will that stop Gubala going in on it? No, it will not. He wanders in the back line, shielded up by that pipe from Billy. More action going into the back lines, but of course it's the Void Spirit show. That's what we're focusing on. MBTW, he shows up for an important cameo, finishes off the Frozen Wyvern with the laser. Now, the puck. Great remnant timing by Gubala. That should ensure a silence combo, but no, there's enough of a gap. Shizia maybe escapes to the face shift, but Billy just hounds him uphill. There's just too many blinks. This may even cost the Sand King his life, and I'm sure he doesn't care one bit. Stop hit creeps. He shows off that shiny new gold. He's got that BKB, but it's not going to do that much. It may contribute to ending the unstoppable streak of the MBTW support Tinker, but
Gubala.
It does not discourage Gubala. An ounce, he goes back in. Hero, he's his favorite whipping boy of this game. Gubala lets him know, lets him have it, and Kid and Divine Llama are still here. There's still a Fiend script. This puck has to be so careful. Can't phase shift out of that one, and to his credit, Shizia is. But man, that fight showed how difficult it is for the Dire to even stay alive, even under their own tier 3 towers with a tier 2 alive.
The BKB is still 35 seconds away.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Kid is just bullying this poor Gyro of any chance at finding farms. Xeon just hiding in the trees, hoping for nothing. I don't even think we're going to see a Roshan at this point. The game is just so
they don't seem to feel that they need it. I mean, granted, one of the things that this UOW draft is worse at, for all its strengths, is Roshan, right? Like, they do not have strong Roshan hitters. Void Spirit, Bloodseeker, not the best, especially without lifesteal. But they haven't needed it, have they? Oh, Gubala definitely doesn't need it. He's already used his Yule Scepter, so he gets silenced for real there. But unfortunately, his whole team is here to back him up. He gets piped. He gets defense matrix. That's why he dived in. He doesn't have a care in the world. Finally, Kid gets to hit something. Hero gets to use the swap for maybe the first time of impact this game. But, I mean, at this point, there's just too much to try and recover. Gubala just effortlessly follows up. And this is why you see this kind of teamfight lineup fall apart. Great Echo Slam is immediately crushed all of the hope out of that moment by a Fiend script. Don't need much of one either. Kavoth doesn't have much of a health bar. Stop Hit Creeps is back in the game. There was actually a dieback from Kavoth already. But yeah, this is the Gyrocopter, right? What can he do? No BKB, no team, no cooldown. He's trying for Billy, who kind of just hurls himself into the towers. And it looks like his team are up in time to keep him alive. I don't even want to say that with confidence, because who knows when Kabbalah is going to dive back in. But this may finally, yeah, this looks like finally a retreat from the high ground. There is still a tier 2 alive in the mid lane, Blue Panda. What is going on?
I think the retreat is only brought about by the necessity of how eager UOW were to fight so deep into the UNSW base. Unnecessary, but effective nonetheless. Billy bit off maybe a bit more than he could chew. That pipe of insight completely nullified the Echo Hero.
He finally got the Ags
If you
online.
put this VS against another, like a support VS, you could not tell the difference right now. I'm sorry.
25-minute Ags is achievable for Sport VS, I guess, if you have a good game. But, yeah, certainly in terms of game impact, we're hardly seeing this hero, right? Which is partly just, it's a small plays hero, right? You get the percentages, maybe sometimes you get a huge swap, but mostly it's just providing good, reliable impact to your team. It's not the Earthshaker or the Wyvern. And none of those heroes, you know, either the big or small cooldown, big or small impact spells have been able to really turn these fights because of how chaotic they are. Like, the early lead that Gubala in particular and Billy in particular got has let them like negate the team fighting of their opponents by just busting straight through their formation and always finding these vulnerable heroes, as they do find Hero and Kavoth in different parts of the map at the same time, killing both off in coordination, right? Like, how do you set up a fight where you can land a big curse, a big echo slam, whatever, when there's no fight? It's just the enemy team appearing in places on the map you can't expect them and murdering your heroes in seconds.
Well, it's not even that. It's the fact that the vision is so heavily controlled by UOW. They don't have the information they need to go in for those aggressive setups with the Winter's Curse, with the Echo Slam. Not that the Echo Slam is going to be available for another 20 seconds, but I mean, just how well UOW have been controlling this vision. As soon as the water's placed, they are then looking to contest it, clear it out, so that they don't have the info they need.
Oh, wait, hang on a second. Are they going to do something really funny? Okay, we're ganking the VS Illusion. Yep. So they knew there were 5 seconds left for Hero to respawn, and he was using that Vengeful Ags Illusion to clear creeps to the mid lane. So they just start chain stunning, but very deliberately not killing the Ags Illusion because VS respawns at it if it's alive. So they just get a free kill on the VS who literally just respawned. That is a very awkward consequence of the Ag Scepter.
And the space created call in chat from Kid, it all adds up. And
brutal.
Kubala is just going to carry on clearing out these side waves as best as, you know, Stop Hit is trying to set them up, push, try and get any advantage he can. Look at the mobility out of this UOW team. 2 sets of boots to travel. Well, 1 set of boots to travel, and then it's Tinker, of course. So realistically, he's got, you know, keen convenience, which is just phenomenal for that sort of thing. I mean, if nothing else, the rework that happened to Tinker has increased that mobility.
Yes, yeah, it's changed how you have access to it, obviously, but, you know, the hero hasn't lost its chance to move around the map. It just doesn't push out every lane simultaneously like it used to when it had March. So now it's much more of that explosive ganking Tinker threat, which I think, I'm not going to say everyone, because there are a lot of Tinker diehards who've, you know, been playing Hero the old way for years, but I think most of the rest of us are pretty happy if it's going to be more of a, you know, a dynamic ganking hero. And BTW still found plenty of time to shove out these side lanes, entangling mostly with Stop Hit Creeps, who, oh my god, is there another item on the courier or something? He's still just Crystallis BKB? That's brutal.
He's trying. He had the Satanic queued up. Now he's looking to go for that Iascardi. But finally, the Aegis is claimed. Kid also has his Satanic on board. So, yeah, look, I think this is the downhill spiral that will become the end of the match.
I mean, at this point, we're pretty much at the bottom of the hill. It's been spiraling for a while as they kill off Hero for, what is that? The 11th time this game, 1 and 11 on this poor Vengeful. His team are really just getting exploited. It's not on really any one player. I think it's just like Gubala, I don't know whether he had like an exceptional mid lane or not. It looked even-ish, at least against the puck, but he even had that one death. They ganked well with the rotation for Kavoth, but then after that, he just turned on the Jets, and he's never looked back. Now that we finally see for the first time in many minutes, a group movement. It's a 5-man gank onto the exposed Billy the Brawler, and they will kill the Sand King, who I feel like has been the other primary culprit in this defeat, or what looks like one for UNSW, but Gubala, he will not give them long to savor that kill. God, those support heroes exploded. Void Spirit definitely does do some damage, and now he's going to hunt Shizia. Flawless execution. He actually threw the remnant out and then started channeling, and I think that you are a less cool person, Gubala, for cancelling that TP scroll. Real core hero energy would have been to throw out that stun and then continue teleporting away as you saw it hit and your team capitalized to kill the enemy puck.
Honestly, I think Gubala just needs to change his name to Leroy because he is just running in.
He's going in.
Somehow he's coming up on top. But I mean, just look at it across the board. It's not like it was a crazy, you know, one-sided mid lane. At the moment, Shizuya actually has more last hits out of that mid lane. But you look at the kill death department, 15-1 on a Void Spirit right now. You talk about snowball potential. This guy's not a snowball, he's an avalanche.
Yeah, 15-1 and 13 as well, right? It's not even like he's been hogging the kills. 28 kill involvements out of 41 kills is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, that's actually kind of like a low percentage for such a high number, which just shows how active like Billy has been, for instance, or MBTW. But you're right, it's not like...
How does MBTW have 8 kills? That's what blows my mind.
I think it does a lot of damage, and I mean, this is just the consequence. Like, they got on top of this Dire squad so early, and they were always going to have...
That's right. Kill secure is the appropriate term when a Tinker is involved.
Heat-seeking missile is just the... And laser, like, one's an instant burst spell that can penetrate, like, certain defenses. The other chases the enemy hero that's running away on low health. It's just kind of a kill-steely sort of hero. He hasn't built a Dagon or anything, right? Has he? I had to check. Okay. He could have, though, in this sort of game. It is a Dagon-type engagement. And Gubala, he takes on the whole team. This time, he's finally managed to find a way to spend his godlike streak. He dies, hands over a ton of gold to his opposite number, but it does not matter an ounce. His team charging behind him. That was the first time I think your Leroy Jenkins comparison has actually been accurate this game, because the rest of the time he's gone in and lived and kept his team alive. This time, that one was a little bit, you know, I'm really trying to push my boundaries, but, you know, at this point, your Sand King has Arcane Blink and Travels and Pipe. Your MBTW Tinker is going for a Hex. Your Bloodseeker has taken over as the most farmed hero in the game and is rocking the Aegis. And, yeah, it doesn't really matter whether Gubala's here at this point, which is the biggest testament to how well UOW have done to set themselves up in this game one.
I mean, that Witness Curse is pretty big. The only reason Divide didn't die is because of the defense matrix that was dropped. Kid is just hitting so hard that he was like seconds away from melting his own support. And it was the last-ditch turnaround that, I mean, it worked about as well as it could, especially given Kid. I mean, you talk about hitting like a truck. This guy is hitting like a freight train, moving at full speed, and you were tied down. Honestly, it's not a case of, you know, can they hold on? It's how long can UNSW hold on?
I mean, if we're talking hypotheticals, they're 26,000 down at 32 minutes. That's not the biggest comeback in Dota 2 history, even if they were to do it. They do have some of the very most premier high ground holding, team fight turning, deficit erasing spells in the game, right? Like, you can't ask for much more than Winter's Curse and Echo Slam and Dream Coil. And the enemy team are not great at taking objectives or even going up high ground, right? Like, we still haven't seen the BKB out of Kid, although the gods are a little bit generous and offer him the status resistance of, you know, the Titan Sliver to go on top of his Satanic Dispel. So he's found other ways to shrug off most crowd control and could still go back for the magic immunity. But I feel as though it's harder for them to dive up the high ground when all of the Dire are alive and ready and have their cooldowns. I just don't know how long you can expect perfect execution.
I mean, yeah, it's great, Bill. They've got great abilities for clearing things out. But when you've got an Arcane Blink, Billy with Epicenter and then Gubala following it up, that's cool. That's nice. You're not going to survive long enough to clear out those waves because they're just pumping out so much damage. There's no resistance. There's nothing. There's nothing to keep UNSW alive. And Kid is just going to say, this is mine. Cool, I got this. This is my tower. Stay away. If you try, you're going to die.
Down. This would be the place to turn it, if anything, right? Like, you just lost to tier 3, and I think Billy knows this would be their opportunity. He beelines straight for where Kavot is sitting in the trees as the Earthshaker trying to make something happen, and just immediately pours a bucket of water on his intended play, stuns him out, cancels the blink with a sandstorm, and in that time, that space created, Kid takes down a lane of barracks. So already, you know, we see whatever fortune's left fading fast for UNSW. Can they make something happen? Will they make something happen? Billy's just teleporting out. They see him with the Dream Coil Orb, not fast enough to capitalize. So they give up Arax for nothing in the end. I mean, they hold their spells in their lives to potentially defend a second lane, but now you're Arax poorer, and your chances of coming back into this have dipped even slightly further.
But I mean, UOW played that perfectly. Kid can go in himself. They don't have to be sitting anywhere near him. The closest anyone needs to be is MBTW with the defense matrix. So you've got this the Wombo setup that you were looking to execute, but only one person that you could actually pull it off on. Yeah, look, good luck. You're going to have to go straight for the... Honestly, just ignore Kid at the moment. That's your best bet. Try and circle around, get the 3-4 on the back line, and then hope for the best, because going in on Kid, you're just wasting your abilities.
Yeah, the thing is, it's just very hard to catch people. Even with, Swap on their side now, they don't have a Blink, they don't have an Aether Lens or anything on Hero, so hard for them to, line up, say, a soft support or even the Tinker for a kill like that. They don't have great control for the heroes they really want to kill, and they know that if they overcommit onto a single target, that is the time when the trap will spring and the rest of UOW will come crashing down on them. It is incredibly difficult at this point to figure out a way back into the game, even into one team fight, but they have to try, right? Either GG out or find a way to win. And Gubala, I mean, UOW, they're showing good discipline, right? I think after that slightly awkward high ground dive they did earlier, we saw it in that Rax taking a bottom. They're prepared to play a disciplined game and close this one out, really fully respect their opponents. But someone has to break this standoff here.
I mean, tell me you're having a bad offlane without telling me you're having a bad offlane. Hero has a Hood of Defiance in his inventory.
A Hero of Defiance.
Purely to try and survive just a little bit longer, because I mean, these are not the items that you want on your offlane bench.
It's not just having a hood, it's completing a hood at 35 minutes. I think that's when you're having a bad game of Dota. I'd be ashamed as a support. They're going to go in. They do drop all the spells on Kid. Like you said, it's futile. He has all of these defensive tools, and so do his team. He doesn't even drop below half. Barely stunned at all. Shrugs it all off, and he tries to join the fight, but Billy and Gubala have already mopped up the whole gang from UNSW. Ultra kill for Gubala's Void. You couldn't pick a more fitting end to what has been a brutal display of skill from the UOW mid laner on that Void Spirit. Gotta respect ban this hero next game. And I liked the draft, and I even liked the kind of play and the esprit de corps showed by UNSW. In the end, though, they had no answers for this last pick, Void Spirit, and they'll have to go back and have a think about what they can do better in the draft, Blue Panda.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You had UOW who were okay, so UNSW, they were looking to complete the marathon. That was their comp. They want to go the distance, they want to survive, they want to be able to take it to the late game. And then you got UOW who are looking to full pelt, sprint it down the mid lane and take every fight they can along the way. Accelerated gameplay, accelerated team fighting. They are looking to just steamroll through. And that's exactly what they did. They played a faster game, one that UNSW could not keep up with, and it shows. I mean, you pick this core Gyro who's meant to, play into the late game, get those big items, picks up a Crystallis first. I mean, that is an item that you pick up if you are having a very, very good game. That wasn't a phenomenal game out of the Gyro, and you can see 2, 5, and 7 still only had the second highest net worth on his team.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I thought I latched onto what you said about the team's relative game plans, right? Like you say, UOW, they want to be hitting fast and hard, and UNSW want to be taking it to late game. And I think that's pretty interesting because I sort of had, if anyone's the early game team, UNSW pegged for that. Obviously, both teams can scale, but these are heroes that come online at level 6 and are incredibly powerful, right, with just their spells. Even the Gyrocopter's like an early peaking carry, whereas Bloodseeker, really wants 2 or 3 items to fight. And I think what really shows the success of UOW in altering kind of the tempo of this game is how long can you drag out that weird phantom phase of the game where the lanes are over and your heroes are moving around, but people aren't really team fighting yet. How long can you keep that I'm still kind of farming my first item, guys, part going? And having won the lanes, they were already higher level and higher net worth than their opponents. They're already delaying the first item out of this puck, especially out of the other 2 cores, right? Gyrocopter completes Crystallis at 12 minutes. And so because of that, while they're farming, that gave Gubala and Billy, with that super fast Blink Dagger, having it before most of the other heroes have their first items, to jump in and just create a bigger and bigger and bigger phase of the game for their ganking style to be effective. They kind of manufactured an early game timing for themselves and ended up dragging that to a really, really long phase of dominance to secure the game. Impressive stuff all around. Yeah,
I mean, Billy had the first Blink Dagger by 4.5 minutes.
That's crazy.
Shizuya didn't get his until 16:01. Billy had his at 11:33, and that was with a completed Hood of Defiance as well. He then goes straight into the Boots of Travel, plays up this mobility-heavy style of Dota that is drafted into this. I mean, you look at Gubala. I mean, 20 kills on the board, just absolutely stomped through this matchup. I mean, just the way he phase boots at 8 minutes, he then goes straight into the Yules. That's done at 15 minutes, straight into the Kaya, straight through to the Kaya and Sanj, and then he picks up the Agnes. I mean, the guy was just so far ahead of everyone else in terms of his item progression that there was no way to keep up with it. And purely because of how he picked up those kills, how he impacted the map on his roams, it wasn't a farm battle. I mean, Shizuya won that, I believe.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm looking at right now, actually. At like 12 or 14 minutes, I'm not sure exactly whether or not this is before that big team fight in mid, but if you look at just the Sand King, the Void Spirit, and the Puck, the Sand King is the highest net worth out of those three, right? Your offlane Sand King has overtaken the enemy mid Puck's net worth at just after 10 minutes. That's kind of crazy to me. But the Puck is still 1,000 net worth ahead of Gabala. It's just understanding which of your heroes need that gold, right? It's so much more important for Billy to have a good start and get his Blink Dagger than it is for the Void Spirit to get an item, right? He's capable, as long as he has that Astral Step, of making stuff happen on the map. Maybe if they take that Earthshaker gank that killed the Void Spirit top and they delay the Sand King Blink Dagger, that whole game changes. I'm not sure if that's what they're thinking about, but hopefully UNSW do take some sort of learning away from that game, because they have to play a second one after this short break. We will be right back. we are back, Dota fans. Sorry about that break. We had some substitutions here. Magic subs in this tense Dota matchup between UNSW and UOW. It's a good time to make them Blue Panda after that game one, because UNSW, they needed to change something.
Yeah, look, I mean, you can understand what they were trying to do. Unfortunately, it just fell flat, due to the aggression and snowball that we saw out of UOW. So, I mean, look, coming into map 2, this is where they can hope to maybe change that up. And already, we are starting to see some reactive bans coming through. Same start off, HA Apparition and Omni Knight taken away. But we do see the Winds of Wyvern banned out by UOW. So, obviously, some respect there being paid.
Yeah, exactly. Even though they won game one pretty hard in the end, I think it's also one of those teams they had that makes the win look more brutal than it is. But certainly they did not falter from taking the early lead to the end of the game. And even so, they're looking at ways to improve. They said that, that Wyvern was actually kind of awkward for us. A few really good curses showed the danger. We'd rather not give you a second chance at that.
Another Shadow Demon ban coming out. I mean, I can understand it, especially given the way that UOW play. I mean, having to set up the disruption, that's not something you want to be facing if you're UNSW.
Oh, yes! Yes!
He's straight in. And we've seen just how oppressive UOW can be. Leading something like the Coddle into that lineup, that's just a little bit concerning, if I'm being honest.
I know you haven't worked with me before, Blue Panda, and I don't even talk about this much anyway, but I have 3 favorite heroes in Dota. I like Ancient Apparition, I like Treant Protector, I like Keeper of the Light. I think you can see the type of hero I enjoy playing, your classic 6th position. But the other 2 heroes have had their time in the sun more often, I feel like, in the last few years of Dota. There's been 1 or 2 patches where Keeper's been around. Some teams like to play him more than others. He's obviously had even a couple of patches where he's pretty busted. But this patch, this is something else. The mid Keeper of the Light meta has been so much fun to watch. How active this hero is on the map. Just how much more, we'll say, like, active and aggressive of a contributor he can be now that Illuminate is like possible to hit on heroes in fights. That significant reduction in the channeling time for the max nuke has really transformed the role of Coddle from just this like static map pusher, which now every hero can kind of do, into a really kind of cool glass cannon, long range, fast move speed, scaling nuker, and I am here for it.
Abaddon is the response, and the Night Stalker has been let through, and this is going to be a pretty potent combo. I mean, having the shield, being able to, Aphotic shield on top of a Night Stalker who is going in that first nighttime around, even when we see that, Dark Ascension come on. I mean, those squishy heroes, this Coddle could find itself bullied out quite early on in this match if, UOW aren't on top of positioning and all the rest of it. But, I mean, Night Stalker has seen a huge amount of effective play over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, of the heroes that are strong this patch, right, Coddle is one of them, Night Stalker is definitely another, and even if you don't necessarily think Night Stalker is stronger, I feel like it's inarguable. The Night Stalker pick is more versatile, and it's easier to bring online. It's harder to punish as well. Like, you imagine Coddle, I don't know for sure whether this is a core, it certainly can be a support, or at least, like, lane as a support, and then scale with farm over time. But, like, this is a hero that relies on positioning and movement speed and sometimes a little bit of soft disable to stay alive and contribute. Night Stalker as a hero just gobbles up that space, right? You're talking about a super fast moving hero, often buys a blink dagger, has flying movement over terrain to ambush you, and this really hard to work with silence aura that just snuffs out the hope of heroes like Coddle once the Night Stalker is anywhere near you. So there's potential that if we see, this hero get off to a good start like Gubala did last game, it can spell doom for multiple UOW supports.
Immediately, as soon as the Night Stalker comes in, they pick up something nice and beefy for that front line. The Tide Hunter coming in, having the Ravage set up with the Coddle. Again, UOW, they played a very, sort of what single target, lockdown-centric style of play. You go for that one hero, you absolutely nail it, and then Gubala just comes in and finishes things off. I mean, they're going for, it's a bit more AoE-centric. You got a Tide Hunter for the setup. You got Coddle throwing that damage over top of everything. They ban out the Monkey King as well, so they're looking to deny a lot of that evasiveness. Silence to the response out of UNSW. That's an interesting one. Honestly, against a lineup with a Coddle and a Tide Hunter already, I think maybe a Silencer could have been a pick that would have worked for them.
Yeah, we saw a few bans like that in game one as well, but maybe they just feel like the lanes don't work out as well, or they're worried about, like, Silencer as a hero doesn't follow Night Stalker in very well, and they already have kind of like a low damage support in Abaddon. You don't want to like limit your ability to keep up with your NS too much, and also have like one hero on an extremely long cooldown while your other heroes are on much shorter cooldowns, right, so far that they've chosen. UOW, they're just removing the heroes that kind of like crush the Tide in lane, or in the case of Clinks, I mean, crush the Titan lane, but also potentially crush the Coddle in lane as much as any hero can. Clink's just kind of out of control this patch as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a great bully, being able to get around the map as quickly as he does, unnoticed, unless there is wards down. I mean, honestly, it's just a playground for him at the moment. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was actually UNSW the first time I cast one of the Uni League matches. It was their opponents actually at the time who paired the Silencer with the Night Stalker, and it was just so unbelievably oppressive when they got it off. Unfortunately, they couldn't deal with it because of the rest of the comp that their opponents brought, but it was still pretty scary at the best times. Now we see the Phantom Lancer again taken away. They just don't want to enable any more of this, AoE team fight, which would have paired nicely with the Tidehunter, with the Coddle. I'm keen to see where UNSW go this time. Obviously, their last comp didn't work the way they wanted it to. It was just shut down so early by UOW. This time, they're looking to enable the Night Stalker, looking to play sort of the style that UOW played last match, and I'm just keen to see if they can pull it.
You stole my talking point. I was about to say, it looks like these teams have actually flipped strategies completely. I mean, UNSW obviously still have a lot of room to pivot off of these two very powerful, just generally useful picks. But it definitely does seem like they are looking for the kind of draft that UOW had last game, right? You have the Night Stalker in a very similar role, potentially, to Gabala's Void Spirit, and now we have the Slark, we have the slower farming carry. It's not quite a Bloodseeker, but I do feel like there is some similarity in terms of when they come online and their ability to, in a pinch, fight it out more so than, say, I don't know, a Spectre or some, super typical late game carry would, right? Slug's tricky like that, and especially is another hero that, like Monkey King, can give Tidehunter some issues in lane. That being said, in more recent patches, I have seen Tidehunter just kind of, shrug off the Essence Shift harassment and just kind of anchor clap the Slark out of lane if he's not careful, but, I trust UNSW to execute well. That being said, they're going to have to deal with Io Sven.
I mean, I'm getting very heavy late 2016 Alliance vibes out of this UOW roster right now, the IOs.
Just Alliance vibes, yeah. We got the Arcade Keeper of the Light.
General.
I mean, Bulldog was never really a Tidehunter, but you have the S4 Tide, kind of. You got EGM's Wisp. Yeah, I mean, I definitely see it, right? This kind of, apart from the IO, these are old school heroes. You got old school carries, old school supports, just strong lanes, strong creep clearing ability, and it's funny how Dota kind of comes back to that every now and then. The meta is cyclical, and what is old is new again.
Yeah, and, I mean, UNSW, they are really going for that man-fighting comp. You got the Night Stalker, the Slark, and a
Do we have these teams labeled correctly? I know we do, because it's in the game, but it really is funny how they've flipped strategies.
But, I mean, UOW have obviously taken notice of what worked out of the UNSW lineup. They've banned out the Winter Wyvern, they've banned out the Puck as well, plus that the Luna that made it through as well. But there's also respect coming out of UNSW. They've banned out Kid's Bloodseeker. They don't want to have to deal with the Rupture or the Blood Rite either coming in through there. So, I mean, look, we've seen what this core is going to be out of UOW, so we see a mid laner potentially. I mean, you can play lane in any number of positions, but more likely than not targeting that mid, so they obviously maybe think that Coddle won't be the mid laner here. But, I mean, again, it's a case of you have two incredibly tanky frontliners out of UOW, plus an IO, which will be doing the best to keep them alive. What is the answer to that?
I mean, they have some okay answers to Io right now. Night Stalker in particular can be a huge bully. Tusk as well. They have the ability to get onto the heroes that they need to. I think, yeah, I mean, I think they would love a Silencer pick right now, but I also think maybe if you can just counterpick this Sven, I think the Sven is really scary. I'm not 100% convinced that Slark by itself is the answer. Maybe the counterpick is a macro counterpick that can slow the Sven down, because Slark did get his farm speed buffed. Sven is one of the better farmers in Dota currently. I won't say the best, but he's very strong. Maybe with something a little more aggressive, to pair with this Night Stalker early on in the ganks. They could go back for their own Tinker or something, perhaps, at this point, or a Sand King, something like that, right? And if you can just hound the Sven out of stacks, if you can draw the UOW team to have to kind of collapse in force, because they do kind of have to bring 5 to a fight if they're going to bring 2 or 3, you can take advantage of that clumsiness on the map. By out farming. The door is open to a lot of things. Their draft right now is pretty well rounded.
I'm just trying to think what could be the fun. Honestly, something is just telling me UOW maybe a Darkseer. I don't quite know where it would fit into this comp, but a Darkseer would just enable this comp. No one's. It's probably not going to be the case. But
I think an offlaner is the thing they need the least right now, right? It either has to be their mid or another support, because this Coddle, to first pick Coddle and then run it in mid after all, would be a pretty huge kind of confidence play. So it's probably a mid laner, but they do have the option if they feel like it to pick something, that can support and just trust that the coddle, because it is kind of this, it's like a big laner, right? You just nuke the creep wave out and go away. It's not like you can lose mid lane that badly.
Unless we're seeing like something like a Magnus potentially to steroid Sven even more and you know have the reverse pull it. I mean, these are heroes I can see being picked up. I just don't see UOW committing that heavily into the one basket.
Does Gabala just
approach to the game?
I mean, I know the Night Stalker pick kind of discourages the Void Spirit. I was about to ask if they just go back to it, but no, they are like all in on a new strat this game. They're like, that was old UOW, this is new UOW. We're very deliberately picking a different draft, a different game plan, different strategy. I don't know whether it's like for their benefit to practice or whether it's to try and like keep UNSW from taking any useful learning from the first game and applying it here. But they are all in the Death Prophet pick, presumably for Gabala in the mid, and that is answered by one of the really mean mids of this patch, the Bat Rider for UNSW.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got this very heavy team fight centric style of play of UOW. They're going to thrive in those team fights, and then you've got this. I mean, it's almost a similar style of play, but you were just looking to man fight everything. A Night Stalker, a Slark, a Tusk, a Bat Rider there, and all the rest of it. And what hero could have picked it up? Obviously, some of you may have noticed we've had a couple of subs come in. Hemoglobin, Hemogoblin, not Hemoglobin.
Great username.
I mean, yeah, honestly, just phenomenal. And then Purple. So it looks like Purple is going to pick up that POS 1 position. Hero now shifting to, I would imagine, a POS 2. And then Shizuya shifting to the POS 3. So it's a big shift around on the whole. I could be wrong. They could just be playing those positions that they did last time is close to. But, I mean, look, hey, if you can't have that flexibility, you're probably going to find yourself struggling in a competition like this.
I mean, that's the important thing, right? Like, AEL is already, Uni League is already kind of a wild card tournament. You don't want to, like, predict too boldly, since so many of these players are, like, you know, underplayed in the scene or playing with new teammates, and now we're seeing UNSW basically be half a new team again, so hard to read too much in from the performance of game one when they've got such a huge shift potentially in their playstyle. I'm excited to see how it actually impacts this game, but you know, as we get into it, that was a very short tactical pause, if it was such a thing. And now they're heading out to the lanes. We've got Hero on the Bat Rider, you know, going to be dominating the mid lane, one would assume. That's why you pick this hero nowadays. Shizuya on the Night Stalker core. Xeon Flux on the Tusk, played well last game. Looking to see if this, you know, better game for his team leads to more dynamic support. Purple, as you mentioned, over onto that Slark. And then, of course, we have the 5 position Abaddon rocking it. Hemogoblin. On the side of the Dire, as they're lining up around BC, slightly different wards to last game, but, you know, same objectives. Gubala and Divine Llama teaming up again as the Sven and Io. We're going to have, Billy the Brawler on the Crobulus, the Death Prophet. I'm not sure if that implies anything about the lanes or if we're changing it up. But now we've got Kid over on the Tide, so yeah, looks like both teams making some changes to personnel. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, like, it's that flexibility. You need sort of that level of adaptability, especially in a game as fluid as Dota can be, especially in these best of 2 formats.
It makes a lot of sense to me, right? Like, when you consider a Void Spirit, it's going to be closer in playstyle probably to a Sven than it is going to be to a Death Prophet, certainly, right? Completely different style of hero, even if they're both technically mid laners. So,
I mean, there is posturing. This is a very old style. I could not, I didn't think it was going to be, but like a duo mid lane would have been an interesting thing to see in 2021. Like, that's, I mean, like, you haven't seen that since what, like, at the latest 2019 or something like that.
Oh,
like, back
long
when
before
it was like
that.
Tiny IO.
I feel like it has to happen, like, for that to happen, it has to be a lane, like a meta that's not only all about mid, but where, like, the runes are insane, right? Because that was always the big thing, is, like, your mid laner can just, like, dominate the mid and burn all his mana, and you've got an IO basically just stacking camps and securing all the runes for you, but, I don't think the economic returns justify that kind of focus in a while, and so we're going to see normal, quote-unquote, lanes coming out, although Gabala has to be careful. That's not a normal amount of damage coming out of the tag team Tusk and Night Stalker lane. Of course, he does have an Io with him, so he's going to stay in it for the long run, trusting those auto-attack traits to favor him, thanks to the tether regen. Still, you know, taking some hefty scrapes in that early engagement, and the cooldown on that ability is not long. They'll be back for round 2 in just a moment. Other lanes looking quieter, so we'll sort of keep our eyes on top. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of action here.
Yeah, I mean, bot lane for UOW is going to be very interesting. Gush level 1, and having, you know, the chakra magic there as well is going to make this lane pretty oppressive. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same level of early aggression on both sides. You've got the Illuminate. Purple is going to have a horrendous time in lane. I'm sorry, he's just going to be bullied.
Ooh, I mean, that's the kind of Slark life at the early levels, right? You're going to have Hemogoblin. That's what I thought, right? I've seen a lot of Abaddons recently ignore the curse and go in for their 2 defensive spells, right? That would help keep the Slark afloat in lane, but I guess maybe your Abaddon's just going to buy a lot of regen and run at least a level of this curse. I don't imagine we'll see it max, but as we see top lane, more engagement happening. Shizuya, he's in a bit of trouble. They're trying to get ahead of the tag team game and pressure the Night Stalker out to reduce the effectiveness of Xeon Flux, and they are successful right now. Good trading, of course, out of the superstar duo, Devilama and Gubala. You know, few players in the AEL Uni League have been holding it down consistently over seasons as these two have together, so not surprising to see them, you know, producing a powerful laning phase in tandem. But, I mean, if you ever needed to see, this might be the most auto attacks I've ever seen in a laning phase. That's where the meta's at, right? Like, what are our level 1 skills? You got Sticky Napalm, Essence Shift, Curse of Avernus, Anchor Smash, Tag Team, you know, Tether on the IO. Like, so much just right-clicking happening right now. They're just in the trenches slugging it out.
I'm sorry, this has to be like the most macho top lane that I've ever seen. You got like a Night Stalker and his fan who are just like, come on, just hit me, come on, let's
slamming their chests into each other in every creep wave, like just brawling.
Yeah, this is like, you know, university, like college football over in the States, like slamming helmets into each other. You just want to fight.
Now, here's Xeon Flux, he wants to fight Devilama. This is like slamming your helmet against the enemy's like coach or maybe the wide receiver or something. This is not a combat position. Devilama slips away with the tether, does not want any of that. But Xeon Flux has 2 levels now. The Ice Shard's going to make it hard to consistently escape, especially if you can actually line up on the Sven. Purple, though, talk about consistently escaping. Yeah, he's not got many ways to escape from this pressure, as you said. Just going to be hounded by MBTW and Kid. Low cooldown harassment. And, of course, we finally look away from top lane long enough to miss the eventual kill. It's Xeon Flux, who actually oversteps his bounds somehow. Gets caught out by the Stormhammer. So, yeah, not certain how that happened, but this is the tricky thing about Tusk, right? You got to play away from the lane, ideally, because you're good at trading. But in this case, you also need to be near your teammate, you know, to get full use out of your skills. And deciding when to go in and out like that is tricky. Billy actually maybe went a little too far in there. He's got 3 napalm stacks, and Hero just immediately pulls the trigger. That was very snap reactions, and not to mention Xeon Flux cruising in to pick up a pretty easy assist. He's gonna abandon Shizuya for dead, though, in top. And as soon as they see that teleport Gubal and Devilama, you know, they are not slouches. They capitalize. So kills trading back and forth, but good signs at least in the mid lane for UNSW.
I mean, it was just adaptations on adaptations.
Purple misses the pounds. They will not stop in the action right now, but maybe that misspell means that if there's not going to be a kill on the Dire, it might go back the other way. Purple, they're trying to kite around. Hemogoblin getting stuck in as best he can with the Curse of Avernus, trying to make sure the Kid isn't able to freely utilize his spells, and it looks like they've shrugged off this aggression. Being as low as they are, they're going to try and lick their wounds. So finally, Panda.
Again, man, you honestly, maybe you should start playing like a brass instrument because you're going to need the lung capacity. But I mean, this is just, that's the power of a Tusk. It's so incredibly versatile. You set up a Batrider in the mid lane.
Xeon Flux maybe overestimating their Cripple Tower again. Actually, it's a really nice Ice Shards, but a little bit too late in coming out there to block the opponents, and it gives up another kill, and they're just... The fact that the Io and the Sven are together, they have the damage right now to bring down this Tusk, and every time he slips away to do funky jungle stuff, they are the ones to capitalize. I don't know whether it needs Shizuya to abandon the creep wave and come over faster. That doesn't seem like such a great idea, but the enemy core is making bank right now of farming your support, so you got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such an impressive lane. Sven on his own is pretty strong, and he's just about to hit 5 as well on top of that. And
Purple?
Just look at it. Denying the pull.
Yeah. I mean, this is what Xeon Flux is giving his life for, right? Try and disrupt this economic, you know, train that's running for the Iris Ven. But even then, they can't actually fully stop that easy camp pull going off. So you're not really spending your life dearly right now.
But it's not even that. The fact that Gubala is getting the medium camp to stop Xeon Flux from enabling the pull for Shizuya.
Oh, they're going in now. They're going to punish him for that, though. That was a nice no. Actually, Gubala, goddamn, Io is such a hero. He's hanging in there. Huge storm catches out the 2 melee heroes. They're actually not going to finish this Sven. I thought they had him there. It looked like the right time to go. Shizuya commits the skill points even that he was floating. I thought he actually might have gone stats. So you get levels up Hunter in the night as that moon arises, and unfortunately, it's still not quite enough damage.
I mean, it's the first nighttime. This is where you want to be going for that first kill as Shizuya. But he's already died once. He hasn't been able to pick up the kill here. This is, again, it's quickly spiraling out of control. This is not the momentum or pace that UNSW want to be setting for themselves. And UOW, they're just showing their stripes right now. They are in control. Yep. And if something happens, it's going to be because they forced it.
MBTW, again, just ukes Purple's pounce on Slucker. Actually, he's out of mana now. I don't know if they can kill him here just because there's so little actual control. He does have an Abaddon, but yeah, the Slug isn't really finding much down bottom lane either. 15 CS. He's avoided a death, but only really at the cost of his early game farm. So, you know, multiple lanes going rough for them right now.
He's got a third of his counterpart's farm.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty hard to compare to a Sven Io, but okay, now they're going to try and get like a little bit of extra gold the other way. They're going to get a kill onto MBTW here. It's actually Xeonflux who picks it up. He's realized, I think, what I was trying to find room to say, which is that you're not going to find a kill with level 1 tag team in top lane, even with Hunter in the Night, against Warcry and, like, Tether Overcharge, right? It's just a really bad laning matchup if you want to get aggressive. So they're going to try and at least give the Night Stalker some solo XP and see if the Tusk has more luck getting kills anywhere else on the map. See if we can disrupt any of these stacks that you know the Sven is coming for at some point, and they will hopefully scout this Ancients here, which they do, and maybe they can get this Tusk to play into the game that way, but it is a little exposed right now.
Honestly, that's what they should have been doing. As soon as they realized that, you know, well, it wasn't even that. They knew the lane was going to be Sven Io. As soon as they realized they were starting to lose control of the lane, send that Tusk mid, send them bot lane, look for those kills.
After the first death.
Batrider. Yeah, exactly. Set up your Batrider, who will be the predominant playmaker, and that's exactly what they're doing. From here on in, they're looking to get the Vi if they can.
Oh, here we go. Okay, this could actually be so incredibly huge. Hero level 7 available with the Lysium, and more importantly, an Invis rune. So he is just going to get the Sven absolutely free in the middle of his God Strength farming pattern. He is left alone, a moment of weakness. Didn't even need the Invis rune there, really. I mean, it let him get close enough maybe over the top of the hills, but he could have flame braked. There's no wards up for the Dire on that line of approach. They went in completely dark, and I think even the Tusk might have been able to secure that kill. So great movement, great timing, rune is the bonus, and that is a massive kill to keep UNSW in this early game.
And what can't be understated is Shizuya and the way that he set things up.
Oh, actually, hang on, sorry. Hero is under pressure here. Billy popped that exorcism, I think, from the mid lane tower, but sees a Batrider and says, oh, I'll take you, actually. Huge ice shards by Xeonflux, really doing his best to become relevant in this game, despite the rough laning phase, and he does just save the life of his mid laner. That was incredible.
I mean, Billy living up to his name. He's looking a man fight every chance to get. But, yeah, Shizuya completely occupied Divide by pushing the lane and taking, cutting the creeps there, and it just enabled that frag go down, setting back Gubala, which is exactly what UNSW want to be doing. Don't let Gubala have an easy laning phase. Don't let him get the farm. And unfortunately for Shizuya, I mean, Gubala, he's had a good time. He's got the Oblivion stuff and the power treads. So as much as it, yes, has slowed things down a little bit, it's not like he wasn't already ahead.
Yeah, exactly, and like your own carry is already sizably kept down, right? So even if you do damage this Sven's farm, it's only really reducing the gap that is already emerging compared to like building an advantage you can really capitalize on. Like you just aren't going to stop a Sven farming with an Io who's had the kind of start he has, who's found the possessed mask he has and built the Echo Saber. He is in full farming mode right now, but they've done what they can, right? This Ancient stack is not as big as it could be. They're getting wards deep in the Dire jungle right now, which is huge. They're taking away his top tier 1 tower, and as you said, they're both, disrupting his farm and doing it intelligently. Like, they managed to get the kill on him while the Night Stalker was farming top instead of having to bring, all of their heroes and just flinging themselves at the Sven. And if they can keep that up, maybe that's how they'll whittle down this lead from the 3,000 gold it currently stands at. Actually seeing some action. Xeonflux gets caught by the Stormhammer, it looks like. Sven, he's so scary.
I was just about to commend UNSW for the way they did that. Shut down the top lane. They want to be playing 5-man Dota. That's how they want to be playing the rest of this game. They cannot afford to let this Sven keep farming the way that it is. They need to be steamrolling. They need to be playing around Hero and having that flaming lasso. Yes, unfortunately, this farm still needs to be found, but given the lead that Gubala already has, they want to be pushing aggressively into the jungle, finding that Sven, shutting it down, because at the moment, this Sven is occupying so much of their time. Billy is occupying so much of their time that Sven can then go and farm, and you look at Kid down in the bot lane. He's sitting pretty. He's the 3rd most last hits. In fact, top 3 last hits in the game.
Second net worth in the game right now, and cruising. Okay, he's playing with fire here against 3 heroes. He has his first Ravage, and he's clearly trying to get some attention on him to use it. But this is a lot of heroes to get attention from. He's silenced first by the Curse, then by the Night Stalker. Can he walk away fast enough to find the Ravage? He's gonna get reload out! Can they set anything up here, or will they? It looks like it'll probably just be a death for the IO. I don't think, even with the Ravage, you want to bring it back in here. But Billy is doing his best to capitalize as all the Radiant move to bottom. He throws out that Exorcism, and this time he gets the kill on Hero's Bat Rider. I mean, Hero's been looking a lot better in that mid lane role on that Bat, but unfortunately can't stand up to that Exorcism damage. And, you know, with the team focused on the other lane, we see, you know, Billy take advantage. It's really interesting, right? Because you look at this team and you go, oh, this is a Deathball lineup, right? You got Tidehunter, you've got Exorcism. You want these heroes to group together and combine their strength, but it's actually kind of the opposite. At this point in the game, they're all so strong individually that they're able to split the map and stand on their own.
I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but we're 12 minutes in, and there's 7k gold. I think this game might even be over. I mean, how many Tidehunters do you know that are confident enough to queue up Heaven's Hellbird first item, ooh, get reload out of a 3-man, you know, 3 versus 2 situation, and then still go, you know what, we can take this. Hero's dead. We'll just go back and see what happens. This lineup is so accelerated. Once again, Gubala has the Echo Saber, has the Sun. He's popping his squad strings
trying to change that
up.
pace. I mean, you mentioned it, right? Like, I mean, I feel like Tidehunter, it shows how strong the hero is right now that I'm not that surprised. Maybe the item choice is different. I see a lot of Agceptors or whatever. This hero, like, just seems to do so well at creating those inevitable situations where it's just one out, like, hitting your T1 tower, soaking up the creeps. But what's devastating is how strong the rest of the team is right now, and how you can go for that narrow impact item like a Halberd, and how crushing that's going to be for the couple of heroes that are still doing okay on the side of UNSW, right? Like, you sort of make a great point in what that says about the game state.
I think the strat might just be bully Purple out of the game as much as physically possible.
I mean, it's working. He's bullied. 3.9k net worth on this Slark. He just has... You say they had to play 5-man Dota, but that's what's so crushing, is they can't really right now. Like, Purple can't even really contribute to fights. He has to be alone farming, and you're against an opponent with relocates. That means you're playing 4-man Dota. You will never have the numbers advantage in a fight. At best, you might find an even one.
You might be in trouble here.
It's so hard. Kid is just so provocatively positioned, and even still, it seems like the Radiant might actually be the ones out of position. They try and snowball onto MBDW. He is unfazed. He knows that Kid is just chilling with the Ravage. They do use the Silences again quite well to control him at the critical time, and so again...
They just can't touch him.
Kid
is a unit.
They go around him, though, at least, right? Like, they are doing a great job with these silences of negating him at exactly the time he would like to Ravage and trying to make it as low value as possible, and his response is just to hold the spell. That does mean, you know, they just killed MPW for no trade. I say no trade. Sven has space, Gubala has space, but it's something, right? I'm trying to find some positives. Shizia, as you said...
There's nothing they can do.
He's not even touching him.
Come on, like, hit me. No, hit me. Damn it. Honestly, he has not left this bot lane. He was caught out on their, like, on the Radiant steps. They go around him, kill MDBTW. He doesn't care. He's like, cool, what's next? Just get out of the way. I want to farm.
I'll correct you, Blue Panda. He was forcibly removed from the bottom lane by his IO, briefly. I'm sure Kid was tremendously upset. He was planning to really just build a home down here, and then he was abruptly teleported away. But after coming back to this lane, you're right, he's been impossible to budge, and here's the rest of his team. If you needed it to be any harder, Exorcism, double damage, Echo Saber, Cine, Sven at 14 minutes. Could you imagine a stronger show of force? There is a mechanism on the IO. Like, this is a 7,000 gold lead, and normally I say, oh, well, a Stomp is 1,000 net worth lead per minute, but, like... This is before any tier 3s are taken. That's just the tier 2 being taken, you know, the first one now for the Dire. And the items that this net worth represents are so huge, right? This isn't like someone holding 3/4 of a Radiance. These are massive, massive items right now.
Now, you know it's a bad game where your offlane Night Stalker finishes his Echo Saber before your Slark does.
Yes.
He's just finished it now. But Night Stalker has it. And the even scarier thing is if you take the top 3 net worth. So Sven, plus the next 2 highest, Sven is almost beating the combined total of the next 2 highest last hits in the match right now.
Yeah, I think this is just the safe lane draft is a huge... The safe lane of the draft for UNSW is a massive hole, right? Because on the one hand, it can only be Slark Abaddon. You're not going to have Slark Tusk. But I don't know, with this draft, I'd almost have just given up, picked a different, like, try to put Slark mid and picked a different safe lane last pick, because you think about how Abaddon likes to play the lane, and you think about what Slark needs. Slark doesn't need a little bit of extra effective hit points every now and then. Slark needs, like, a huge laning presence with a hard stun to peel aggression off the Slark, to set up the pounces, and to, you know, to bully the enemy away, right? And instead you've kind of got this, like, soft presence. The Abaddon's going to trade auto attacks, do a little bit of chip damage, so you have 0 kill threat in that lane. You have no ability to bully people who are just hitting your Slark, or even stop MBTW from just channeling Illuminate over and over. And how are you ever meant to get your farm started like that?
Just to give an indicator of how things go, there is not a single position on UOW who is losing to a member, their counterpart on UNSW. In fact, the only player who is, I suppose you could consider, is losing is Devi compared to Xeon Flux. And even then, I don't think they're comparable in terms of what they bring to the team. Hero, though, that's a big engage.
Yeah, oh, that's massive. And, I mean, they're diving in. Shizzy are doing his best to play the Nightstalk, right? This is how the draft's meant to work, but that's how the Ravage is meant to work, right? Like, the big AoE covers the whole fight. Even your mobile bat and your Nightstalker can't escape the tentacles, and they die to Kubala almost instantly. He's not done. He rolls up the hill. He finishes the Hemogoblin. He's trying to finish this game. There's an Exorcism as well. He's tanking the whole tower. This is a lot of damage, but there's an IO in play. It's so hard to bring him down. They do actually eventually pop the Sven, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. And they don't even have the Ags up on the Coddle yet, so the healing is only going to get stronger over time. And even without the Sven, this is not a lineup that relies on him to like, bring down all of the objectives. Billy is just running this Exorcism trains. They're still going to gobble up your tier 2 mid and damage your high ground a little bit here before they move on to probably reset, take Roshan, and then the game.
Oh, purple, though. This actually could be a big re-engage.
They debate, maybe? Okay, Exorcism's over, Billy. You gotta leave now. I am retreating. Good ping from Kid letting us know exactly how he feels. Hero, though, he doesn't want to let him retreat. No lasso available, but the Flame Break will still disrupt the positioning, knock them all back. Io, he has Relocate available if he wants to try and get someone out, but he's gonna have to use it already. He's getting stunned, he's getting targeted. They know he's the troublemaker. Devi Lama finally pays for his crimes, but, oh, Hero, that was an awkward blink. I don't know if that was intentional. It looked like maybe he double tapped or clicked his mini-map, blinks slightly to the left instead of onto his target, and that might be the end of the pursuit. But without a lasso, I don't think you bring down either of these fast tanky heroes anyway. You got what you can, which is pretty much just the IO, and in return, you lost a pretty sizable team fight and your tier 3. I don't think even the Sven kill makes up for it.
Yeah, honestly, I think that was a defensive blank, because Sven, obviously being back up, you don't know where he's going. He did show himself in the top lane by the time that chase did come to its conclusion. But that's bad. That is 2 maps in a row now where we have seen UOW dive past a tier 2 into the base, only lose 1 player, and come out on top.
MBTW, yep. Okay, he finally gave them an easy target. It's a starving dog. You know they'll pounce on the food. It looked like it could have been a debate, but it was not in fact in this time. Just a Keeper of the Light, opportunistically blasting some creeps in vision. He is easy prey for the Blink Dagger now on the Tusk. And they might even get the tier 1 out of this, which is a pretty big capitalization for a support kill.
Well, unfortunately, Billy's there, and so is Gubala, and they might just
do finish the tower. They're like, Hemogoblin, this is worth your life, right, buddy? See if you can get a TP off. Nope. They slap his ass with the whip. They toss him in the air. And after, you know, having sufficiently hazed the opposing support, they're going to kill him. Maybe even his courier. Can't get it in time, but that is a small objective. You know it's a big objective. Roshan.
Well, Kid has held the Ravage. He's literally just got the money for his Blink Dagger, and there we go. He's brought it up. But, I mean, okay, so if you take the net worth and half it, that is how far Sven is ahead of the next highest hero, which is the Death Prophet. Half of that gold lead is in the pocket of Kubala right now.
Yeah, he's creeping on doubling the net worth of his enemy mid and safe laner, and almost 3 shots Shiji there. You know, really controlling the positioning of the Nightstalk with that powerful Coddle slow. They really delayed this Roshan stuff. For some reason, I don't know whether it was just like, I think it must have been cross purpose, but Kubala and Devi did not go in the pit immediately. And then their team kind of like insisted they come back by just starting hitting the Roche with like Coddle and Tired. And that's given Hero and the others from UNSW time to get here and potentially contest. But like now it's like, okay, pick your poison. When do you want to initiate into this really nasty lineup with a huge lead? Ravage fired off. It catches only a couple, and there's a great response. They did actually bait out that initiation, but it's really just initiation to cover the Aegis being taken, so no mess, no big mistakes. They really kind of were only scared of a steal there, because in any reasonable team fight, you have to favor UOW at this point. They are in mop-up mode, and it's mostly this Sven. Gubala crushes them. Shizi are going to be the last one picked off. He loses his flying vision, and that's going to be the loss of his life as well. Billy actually picks up a triple with the exorcism. There's just so much damage flying at it. It almost doesn't matter who gets the killing blow. These Radiant heroes just running around, you know, and eventually collapsing under the sheer weight of the enemy lead.
A full 5-man wipe, completely unanswered there. 13k gold lead. Canyon into the tower going down here. The TP into the bot lane. Billy's going to start pressuring there as well. Just the global pressure. The way University of Wollongong are showing their coordination has to be of concern to anyone else in this competition.
Yeah, the Mighty Gong are doing it. I mean, that last team fight was... I praised UNSW in the previous game for their discipline. That last team fight was like one of those ones where you're like, man, this team might be broken. Just kind of falling apart without accomplishing anything. That time, they're able to focus their powers enough to kill the Coddle again. Take the kills you can get, right? That's not a knock, but because if you don't get any kills, that's what the last team fight looks like. You kind of just had a plan, which was draw out the Ravage, and then nothing after that. Now they're trying to bring down Kid while that Ravage is unavailable, which seems like a plan, but so far they just haven't been able to get in between these overlapping cooldowns, and, you know, unfortunately, Gubala just really doesn't have that much of a cooldown to worry about. They don't have the kill potential to make things happen before he arrives, and once he arrives, there's no kills to be had, at least on the side of the Radiant. Hemogoblin is going to be run down by the Soul Siphon. Meanwhile, Gubala is running down Sluck under his own tier 4s. He has a Daedalus at the same time as he has a tier 2 neutral item. He's going for the Swift Blink before 25 minutes. Blue Panda, what on earth is happening?
You don't know the scariest thing? Of the 9 deaths that UOW have suffered, 5 of them are on MBTW. And Kid has yet to die. He is 1-0-10, 23 minutes into this match. Tier 3's being threatened. In fact, Gubala should be able to get this as soon as the, you know, yeah, there we go. It's just gone. It's just no chance. This match is Wollongong's. If they lose it, it is because all 5 members run into the fountain repeatedly for the next 5 minutes.
Which has happened. I've watched teams lose games in this way. However, I do not think UOW, with their history and how we saw them execute Game 1, are liable for that kind of throw. I mean, this is just like every night when Sven players go to sleep and dream, they dream of this game, right? Like, you're constantly having your hand held the whole game by an IO waiting on you hand and foot. Your whole team is just balling out of control in every lane. You have infinite space to farm. You're able to, like, collapse. Like, the enemy team really do not have that many saves to speak of, and they haven't been able to line up their disables on you, right? Like, in theory, they might be able to control this Sven with the lasso or something, but the overall pressure has just been too much, and when these fights are being initiated, it's never on the Svens. It's always just Gubala arriving mid-fight and instantly Echo Sabering like 2 heroes into the dirt. So, I mean, he's grinning from ear to ear right now, I'm sure.
I mean, the dumbest thing, beyond Gubala being insanely farmed, is the fact that, so Kid has not died.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, cool, so he's been farming the jungle.
Oh, hang on a second. Look at this Ravage! Humongous. He reveals the blink. He destroys the hopes of the Radiant. They tried to go for another one of those pickoffs, and this time they will not even get that opening kill before the tide is turned on them. Rolling it back, and Purple, oh, look at that blast from MBTW, trying to even get the +1 kill with some fancy stuff. Unfortunately, there is no stun to cancel the teleport. That being said, all it means is that Sluck gets to watch his team lose from the safety of the base. Gubala rolls up the higher ground, still running a third of a God Strength. Should be enough to take this Rax right now, especially as his Wisp arrives. And his team, meanwhile, working on the top barracks. They want this game over, Blue Panda. They are not wasting any time.
This match is about to end before Purple gets his Shadow Blade, which
is
my
goodness gracious,
horrendous prospect for a Slark player. 2 barracks remaining, ranged, both of them about to fall. Megas in pocket. Well, actually, no, they've got the bot lane, so not quite there, but look, let's be honest. Gubala is the mega creep. He's going in. He's just going for it.
He's creeping on their base right now. Has the Swift Blink reveal. That's a powerful one. 25 minutes into the game, maybe the earliest Swift Blink purchase I've seen. And it's not like he skipped anything either. Like, he's with the Aegis full slotted around the Swift Blink, so really just driving home the gap in class between these two teams, which is not to say UNSW are bad, but it is to say that UOW are absolutely going to be grand final competitors this season if they have anything to say about it. Gabala might actually be caught, loses Aegis on the steps of the enemy high ground. They're trying to knock him into the fountain. The flame break doesn't do it, but they can't keep him alive under this much pressure. So here's the fountain dive you talked about. This is where they can throw the game. Io's attempting is that a reload? Oh, he's going to get reload back into this, I think. He tried to TP scroll his way out of it or something. God knows what happened. But yeah, okay, they're 5-man feed.
All onto purple as well.
That's...
Which...
Yeah. Okay. Well, before this, Slark had a support level, like sub 350 GPM. Now he's back up to almost 450, right? The Sven is still at 829. So it's not like you've recovered the lead. But that probably bought Slark... Yeah, bought him a whole silver edge. I don't know.
Oh, my...
They
Kid's also no longer deathless.
Yes. Yeah, it's really ruined our narrative over here, guys. Come on. I mean, they probably have to do that, like, at least one more time, equally as bad.
I mean, ruined our narrative, played right into it, given that we said the only way they lose this is by throwing them bodily into the fountain. That's exactly what they did.
We did hedge our bets by foreshadowing potential throws, so...
That's what happens when you get the script nice and early.
I mean, it's just, you watch Oz Dota enough, you're just like, oh yeah. I mean, you know, at the start of the game, you like check the notes, okay, here's our tactical pause, here's our trial-in on trial-in action, or depending on the meta, here's our 5-on-5 room fight, and then, right on time, 26 minutes, team's about to win the game, time to dive the fountain and feed 5 heroes.
It goes, like the meta, it's cyclical, it just keeps happening, and at the moment, it's a reprieve. I don't know quite how much that shifted the gold lead, but it's enough that UOW aren't just going to close things out right now. Unfortunately, though, Gubala is still continuing to farm. They found the Titan Sliver, which, I mean, it depends on who you throw it on, but someone, I would imagine it's probably going to be Kid, who was already hard enough to kill, is about to get even scarier.
Oh dear, this Slark, 3 shots technically, but the first 2, you couldn't, you know, see him between the Echo Saber buff. Even gets the courier, he was trying to micro that away. Gubala will not allow purple a win. Just crushing, like, the Slark trying to get a creep wave, and you just see it about to happen like a horror movie. Blinked, stunned, killed immediately, right? Like, how can you play the game this way? No hope of a comeback when this is the situation you find yourself in. They obliterate Shizia just as easily. Pick him off with the ease of a support kill. It's only 27 minutes. This could be, you know, a Sven at 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But Gubala's just had a godly game, and his team aren't that far behind. Billy now tangling with the high ground himself, but, you know, with the exorcism, it's a bit of a different equation this time around. They also have the Will-o'-the-Wisp, just holding down that territory, and Gubala, like, this is the killer instinct, right? Like, this team, they mess around, they allow themselves one moment of fun on the steps of the base, and now Sven is just chiseling down your throne. Gonna be a clean 2-0 for the UOW boys, and Blue Panda, I can't imagine a bigger statement win as we head towards the back part of the regular season.
I mean, they ran it down and still closed things out. It was just, it was their match. Like I said, the only way they lost is if they repeatedly ran it into the fountain over the next 5 minutes. They did it once. They gave us that at least.
Yeah, and it's like a rite of passage. Like, we earned our fountain dive by being this far ahead of you. We can all die, it still won't matter.
The scary thing is, though, I do not believe, for the life of me, that Purple actually got to activate his Silver Edge.
I can believe that, right? Because he bought it after the last fight, all the enemy heroes were dead, and then he walked out to farm a crate wave and died. So, yeah, he's had a hard game.
Wow. 15 kills for Gubala.
Ooh.
He just 4 on the Abaddon, 4 on the Night Stalker, and yeah, look, the most deaths across the board out of UOW was poor MBTW, who died 6 times, almost more than the rest of his team collectively.
I mean, it's called a life, right? You know, sometimes you just gotta go out there and be a self-sacrificing kind of dude, do it for the team. At least nowadays you get items for it. I was gonna say though, Blue Panda, I don't know if you can see the screen right now. Would you like to hazard a guess at what the largest gap in net worth was between the Sven and the Slark during that game?
I mean, he was what, 4.5 of that K of that gold lead was Sven's at one point. I mean, they were about 9. So honestly, I think at max you're looking 7K.
Right before that fountain dive, you think 7K?
Potentially, yeah. No, it would have been between 6 and 7.
Okay, it was 13,000 gold.
Okay,
It's
that's
21,000. That is twice as much as you watched the game. You saw how far ahead Gabala was.
That's almost 3 times.
It's almost triple the net worth. And I'm trying to think that there's not even any way that's a trick. This isn't like, I had my extra item on the ground or anything. Like, that Slark was just vibing with 1.5 items, and Sven was like 5 or 6 slotted.
But the scariest thing is you look at the Coddle, who was only 800 gold behind.
Yeah, exactly. Almost caught him. I mean, it's a hard game however you paint it, right? We could go on and on with these stats. All of them make UOW look very good. And I don't think necessarily make UNSW look bad, because it's not like they made clownish mistakes this whole series, right? They kind of just had a couple of vulnerabilities in their draft, and then UOW, like an absolute expert prize fighter, just immediately spotted the hole in their guard and just threw a knockout punch. Like, I feel like a couple of minutes in the laning phase of each game, right? Like, Gubala and I mean, Billy in the first game, Kid in the offlane in the second game, just both of them taking over things completely.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way to describe it. Overwhelming. And that's exactly how University of Wollongong played it. University of New South Wales literally did everything they could. They held on as long as they possibly could. But I almost would peg it down to the draft. As soon as Sven IO came out, the game was over. They just didn't have any effective way to deal with it. They spent too long with the Tusk in the top lane when he could have affected potentially the rest of the map and changed the course. Honestly, I think maybe if they'd snowballed Hero just that little bit more, they could have impacted the Sven in the way that he was accelerating the farm. But, I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. It is a massive victory for University of Wollongong, another 2-0 for them, which still leaves them having dropped only a single map this stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar story every season. This powerhouse lineup, they have the tight core, MBTW, Billy, Devi, Gubala. These guys are just not going to lose a lot of games in a league like this, and I expect to see them keep up this form, right? Like you saw, they don't just have the high peaks of skill. They have the killer instinct, they have the discipline, they have the drafts. It's a whole package, and, I'm glad to see them performing up to their capabilities and showing off 2 very different drafts on the new patch. It's all been a really fun night of Dota, as long as you are not UNSW or one of their fans. Probably more disappointing in that case, but... who'll never disappoint you is our sponsors, Blue Panda. We have to thank them one more time before we go. Of course, shout-outs to our tech sponsors, Rig, providing the headsets that bring you the sweet, sweet audio, from our sultry voices to, of course, the bang and crash of Dota. Make sure you're really there in the action with Rig headsets. Of course, AOC, making sure you have the other half of the full sensory experience with their high refresh rate monitors, full color definition, incredible, reliable gaming technology. As you said, Blue Panda yourself, you swear by them, ready to go back into the pool for more AOC goodness with your next monitor pickup.
Yeah, that is going to be the gameplay. I can tell you that much for sure. If and when it does come, it's probably coming sooner rather than later, given my PC's on the way out. But yeah, Chatime as well. None of this would have been possible without the backing that they give us throughout this. And obviously, going into the summer months, who doesn't want some lovely, fresh Chatime tea?
Yeah, and of course, Indomie, the last sponsor, but definitely not the least. Gonna probably... Man, actually, I shouldn't talk too much about noodles. After that series, I am hungry. That was a vigorous game. Lots of casting, lots of action. It was a pleasure to bring it to you, and of course, it's all that we have for tonight, but not all that I have, at least, for the week. I don't know about you, Blue Panda. I will be joining everyone here again on the stream with more AEL Uni League Dota Season 2 as of Sunday afternoon. Make sure you're there to catch that. I don't know, do you have any more casts coming up this week?
I mean, I was meant to be doing Counter-Strike tomorrow night, but I'm still not sure because some of the players thought it was going to be Saturday and not tomorrow. But for the University League, I think, yeah, that's me done for this week.
Well, fair. I mean, yeah, exactly. For this week at least, but there's plenty more action in the season from both of us to come, I'm sure. So, check out all of the announcements of those games. It's easy for you to keep track of at home if you just follow at AU Esports League on Twitter. That's where you'll see all of the going live announcements, not just for Dota, but as you said, Blue Panda, for Counter-Strike and Rocket League and all the other fun games that are a part of the Uni League experience. And, if you want to broaden that experience of esports to include my, travails through Dota, card games, fighting games, all sorts of stuff covered over at A Wandering Bard. And Blue Panda, of course, yourself. Where can they find your stuff?
At Blue Panda _casts. I do a lot of Rainbow Six. I'm picking up Dota, and I got a couple other things going on as well. So yeah, I make sure you follow the socials. I keep all my updates up there. Well,
it's great to have you here in Dota. It was a tremendous cast tonight, and hopefully we can do it again very soon. But for now, everybody, thanks for watching Uni League. Good night.